Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined Sarah Jane Smith as she defends the greater UK and the Earth while having a canine dog in her safe. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn. She has a canine dog in her safe. I love it. I think canine is actually in
is in a pocket universe.
Yeah, is in a pocket universe trying to keep
defending.
Which I think is excellent that he's fixing the black hole that the CERN people in Switzerland have created in the Large Hadron Collider.
Oh, is that what he's doing? I didn't quite get that.
She talks about the experiment in Switzerland. She's talking about CERN. They created their black hole, and so he's busy cleaning it up.
Which, for you, because you were such a fan of the show, Flash Forward.
Oh, I watched it. I don't know how much. I'm a fan of the book.
Oh, you've read the book? Okay, well,
the book is phenomenal.
They worked.
Oh, yeah.
At the
Large Hadron Collider.
Yeah, that one.
In which
is weird because that book
which
was
Leonard
so cool.
apparently has also gone from Big Bang Theory.
Yeah,
and that TV show had nothing to do with that book.
There was elements of it.
They borrowed from.
They brought in the main character at least.
No.
Yeah.
He wasn't a scientist.
Yeah, he was.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah,
he wasn't in the book. He wasn't in the show.
The main character?
Yeah.
That comes over?
He
Lloyd
was a
Cisco?
cop.
No, Lloyd, wasn't his last Cisco.
I don't care anymore. I
Don't
stopped
look to
watching.
me for anything. I didn't watch that show. I didn't read the book.
If that show would have worked if they had gone, we're going to go 24 episodes and be done. It's just a 24-episode miniseries. It would have been phenomenal. It would have been cool.
They brought in the scientist.
We think we might have a
character.
chance to drag this out for 3 more seasons, and then
They brought in the scientist main character from the book, but he wasn't the main character in the series. He was a supporting character.
Right, that's what I said.
But
It had nothing to do with the book.
You said he was a cop or something.
The main character in the series was a cop.
Yeah,
okay.
well, he was an FBI agent, but
Same diff.
it had potential. But if you
Yeah, note to television writers, if you're going to do something like this, just give us a miniseries. I'm fine with it. Do a full season-long miniseries. Heroes should have been 1 season. Period. The end. The first season is phenomenal. Everything else after that sucked.
I don't know about phenomenal, but
No, it was phenomenal.
It was good.
It was phenomenal.
it was good, except for the last minute.
Well, because they were setting that up for the next season. That was the key. That's where it all fell apart.
And anyone should go read Flash Forward. It's phenomenal.
what'd you guys do this week? Since this isn't the flash forward.
We argued a
podcast.
lot about television shows.
That was just now. That's all you did all week.
That's all I did all week.
Sarah and I went shirt hunting,
Shirt hunting.
looking for my red 11th
Did you
Doctor
bag any
shirt.
shirts?
I did not. I found a potential one.
Did you sit in a shirt blind with your gun poised and wait till
maybe
they
that's
came
what I
along?
should've done.
Do not mock this man. Shirts can be very dangerous if they're only wounded. You have to make sure that you kill them.
Did you bring your shirt hunting dog with you?
No.
They go out there and retrieve them.
He's locked in the safe.
Yeah, he's locked in a safe. Plugging a black hole. I found a potential one. They didn't have it in my size, so we're going to go back in a couple weeks and hopefully pick that one up.
Where'd you go?
In the mall, you name it. We
Here?
went everywhere
In Topeka?
in Topeka, in the mall.
You were able to find a Doctor Who shirt not in your size here in Topeka?
Close enough.
Oh my gosh! I've never ever come to
from a
anything.
distance.
Wow.
It's not the 11th or it's not the 5th season squiggly line shirt. I know I'm never going to find that unless I get it personally made.
Right.
I found one.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You went to find a shirt for your cosplay.
Yes.
I'm sitting here thinking like a shirt
my
with the
cosplay
fifth or with
costume.
the. Fifth
I guess you did.
with
You said that, and I know where you were
11th
going with it
Doctor.
because I was in on the story, and I didn't think about the
I
fact
was
that he
totally
was lost.
going. Wait a minute! I've never seen T-shirts here with Doctor Who.
They do have Doctor Who shirts here in town.
Where at?
Vintage stock.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
not
I did. I
they're
take
not
that
11th
back. I have
Doctor,
seen
but
those. Yeah, I have seen.
I
None of them
went
are my
looking for a
size. They don't have
cosplay
3X.
shirt.
Every comic book, movie, gamer, geek that I know, with the exception of a handful, Keith being one of the handful, are 3 2X guys. They're large guys. It is a stigma that is true. It is a stereotype that is true.
Bigger shirts.
I went looking there. They don't have Doctor Who. They have bigger shirts.
But
except for Big Bang Theory.
Anyway, so I go, anywhere you go, you see these bigger gamer guys, and so you would totally expect vintage stock and those kind of places to have the 3X shirts. No, they only go up to 2X, which I can fit in a 2X, but it's only going to fit me for 2 weeks until I've washed it twice, and then it's
then it shrinks.
Shrunk. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, regardless,
so
to all of you T-shirt manufacturers,
guy, in case people don't realize.
To all of you T-shirt manufacturers, think about your target audience. If you're going to put the flash lightning bolt on the shirt, it needs to come in a 3X,
which kind of counters.
That doesn't matter.
The point of wearing the shirt. Now, I do have a problem with large guys wearing Superman logos on their chest or Batman. It's like, dude, Batman wasn't ever that big.
Yeah, no, it's just,
then you conjure up images of Captain Sweatpants.
Yeah,
you're showing your love.
Exactly.
And this is the deal. Anybody who's in the manufacturing business for this particular item should know who your target audience is. And if you know anything about us, you should know that you don't want us to wear your 2X shirt.
Yes.
You don't want to see us in public in that, period. So accommodate us. Okay, done. I'm off the soapbox.
Regardless, I found a possible one that I think I'll go back and hopefully they'll have one in my size. I need to double check because they're dress shirts. So I need to double check my measurements of what my dress shirts.
You didn't try it on?
No, it wasn't like folded up in a bag.
You can still try those on, Keith.
Oh, I can?
Yeah.
Oh.
You take them into the waiting room and you pull the pins out and you
take them out, and then you take it to the clerk, not the clerk, or the attendant, and they'll put it back for you if it's not your size.
Oh, okay.
You just hand it to them, say this one didn't fit.
Next time I'll do that.
They want you to try them all on. I mean, they want to make that sale, so they'll put it back in the bag if they have to, or get credit for it and get another shirt from the manufacturer.
At first, I didn't think it would be a
Most
good
of the time
shirt.
they put it back.
Somebody out there is listening to this who works in a department store going, "No, don't ask us to put it back in the bag."
You people. No, I've done that before.
I didn't,
because I'm an odd size. I'm not really a 3X guy. I like to wear my shirts very large. But I have like a specific build because my torso is actually disproportionate to my legs, length of my legs, and so I have.
You and I both have very long torsos.
I have a weird setup, so
legs.
I have to actually try shirts on to make sure they're long enough, because I don't like to go to big and tall, because big and tall is the opposite of regular clothes. Is they're all either too long or too large, and they've got elastic in them. And I'm not going to wear elastic. I'm not that big of a guy.
From what I've seen of big and tall is that it's never big.
It's either big or tall. It's not big and tall.
From what I've
that's
seen,
for certain.
It's big. I've seen that it's not big and tall. It's big and or tall.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I never find anything that's big and tall, or big or tall.
That's frequent.
Big and tall.
Frequently, my problem with them, though, is if I go and I buy a dress shirt, for example, it's a 3X, it's long enough, but it becomes Omar the Tent Maker.
Yes, exactly. It's too wide. Yeah, and I can't wear. If I wear dress shirts, I have to go with the 2X.
Or I'll find ones that fit around, but they're not long. They're not long enough.
Exactly. That's my problem. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
I have to try those on. So I know.
So clothing manufacturers, for those of us with long torsos, fix it.
I have opened the bag, because we can't afford to go have stuff tailor-made for us. I have opened bags, tried them on. If they don't fit, you give them back to the attendants.
You know the other solution to this?
What's the other solution to this, Sean?
He was directing at you.
I know, but I mean, it's like I look at him. That's what is it? And he's waiting for me.
This is radio. It's an audio podcast. I can't have. There's no visual cues here. The other solution is that you and I go on a diet.
Well, yeah, that won't fix my elongated torso.
Now, I would personally much rather the clothing industry completely rework how they manufacture clothes. That's much simpler on my end.
That's true. That's true. I could diet. That would help immensely, especially with the 2X shirt or 3X shirts. That would be. Anyway, Sean, did you do anything this week?
I did some babysitting of 40-year-old on Friday night. I missed Friday Night Who. Mel's brother came into town, Aaron. Aaron is a fun guy. We love Aaron. He's a truck driver, so anytime he manages to get a load that's going from yonder to someplace else, and
from here to yonder.
Yeah, from here to yonder. And Topeka winds up being in the middle area of that. If he can
between
swing
here
it,
to yonder.
Yeah. Well, that's where we're at on the map.
Yeah.
Between here and yonder. He'll come down. And so he gave us a call and said, I'm going to be in town Friday. And we were like, oh, sweet. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because I love Aaron. He's a great guy, and he's a lot of fun. But I knew I was going to miss Who then.
This is the second Friday Night Who in a month.
I know, it's weird.
You know, I thought about this because you had earlier in the week sent a tweet out inviting Colin Baker and Nicole O'Brien to join us for Friday Night Who because we were watching an episode.
As I will do every time we watch one with the two.
And because they're actually on Twitter. And so I tweeted you back saying, well, you know, if they actually do join us, you're going to have to be there. I really thought that Keith and I would be sitting here that night, tweeting along, one or the other would pop up, and suddenly Sean would come crashing through the door. Hey, I'm here. I don't care. I dumped Mel and her brother off at the bowling alley. I'm here.
It'd be like the Kool-Aid guy showed up. Oh, yeah. But so Aaron came into town and said he wanted to go bowling, and so they got delayed picking up their shipment, which I guess for the new company he's doing furniture. They move furniture, so he was delivering something across the country and heading to Utah. But he got delayed picking up the shipment, so they were supposed to be in like at 4, and they didn't get in until about 9:30 or 10, and that kind of really backed up the rest of the schedule. But we still went out to the bowling alley, and I got a turkey, which for those of you that don't bowl is 3 strikes in a row.
Congratulations.
So I was very excited about that because that's only a handful of them for me. And
I don't think I've ever gotten
a handful of turkeys.
A handful
I've only ever gotten one.
Yeah. So, every great blue moon I get one. And apparently I was on enough.
The last turkey I got was when I was bowling on that league with you.
I think you've gotten at least
16
one.
years ago, yeah.
Glenn and I used to bowl on the league together. Yeah. We weren't any good, but we used to do it.
But we had fun. We were there to have fun.
We did. We had a lot of fun. But so I did okay. Aaron is a bit of a drinker, and he apparently felt like he needed to catch up because he will sit and drink beer all night long and be fine because he can space them out. And apparently he felt like because he was delayed coming in that he needed to make up for lost time. So he and his friend Mark, who came along with him, were going through it. And I lost count at 5 pitchers. It could be as high as 9. We're pretty sure we're just going to split the difference and say 7 pitchers of beer in about an hour and a half. So needless to say, there wasn't much going on afterwards. Mel and I did a lot of babysitting with the 2 drunks in the house. And, it was an interesting night, to say the least. And for those of you that drink, why? I really.
There's a difference between drinking and drinking in excess like that.
Yeah, well, like I said, I don't think he meant to. I don't think he necessarily realized how far over the bend he'd gone.
I think you talked about this off mic, but when you're a truck driver, you don't drink when you're on the road.
Oh yeah,
you just don't
absolutely.
do it.
You just don't
and
do
so
it.
when you get a chance to have some downtime.
Yeah,
that's when you catch up and kind of have some fun, and sometimes you overindulge.
Yeah, he definitely hit that do not pass go, do not collect $200 point.
Go directly to jail.
So
not that far.
Quite.
No, we were taking no driving at this point. So we got him in the house, and as Mark's passed out on the couch snoring, and Aaron's on the floor in front of the fireplace heaving into a trash can, and Mel and I are just sitting there, kind of shaking our heads, going, "We gave up Who for this?"
And it was a good episode.
Yeah, it looked like you guys were having a lot of fun. It's one I've never seen, so I'm looking forward to catching up this week.
What?
I've never seen Attack of the Cybermen.
We're going to have a lot to talk about.
There's very, very few.
What?
Very, very few Colin Bakers that I've actually sat down and watched.
I guess that's true.
So there's very few Colin Bakers.
You are going to absolutely love it. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Anyway,
you don't like it.
No,
I can tell already.
Well,
we'll save it.
We're saving this, but I actually liked it on my third viewing much better.
We got
it's a lot more fun when you're tweeting along.
Yeah, well, got them packed up and sent away. And then Saturday we went and saw Star Wars in Phantom Menace. In Phantom Menace, we saw Phantom Menace in 3D, and had a lot of fun with that. I will say I agree with most of what you said, that it was enjoyable and you liked it. And I thought for sure that you'd gone. And I apologize, Keith, because we talked about going together, and I felt really bad after that.
That's okay. I can't, we were shirt shopping.
Well, yeah, but we had talked about going together, and then for some reason I got my wires crossed, and we were thinking about, well, didn't somebody already see it? And I thought, oh yeah, Keith and Sarah already went. I didn't realize it was you.
It was me.
So, but
I don't know if I really need to see it in 3D.
There are parts of the pod racing is phenomenal. It's cool. The opening crawl is phenomenal. Some of the lightsaber stuff was pretty good. Most of it, I was honestly, all it did was whet my appetite.
Mm-hmm. You tweeted that really all it did was
it just
make you excited about the ones that are going to be way down the line
Yeah.
because we still have to get 2 more prequels out of
Well,
them.
even those, I just there was so much of this. Like there were scenes where Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon definitely were popping. They were like right out here, but then it almost felt like they were standing in front of a view screen or something because so much of the background did not have any depth to it.
Yeah,
which I
they
thought was
focused
really
on,
odd.
That's what they did, though. I mean, because it's not shot to be in 3D. They focused on a lot of the elements in it instead of the whole picture, I think.
And the biggest disappointment was the space battle, which I would have thought would have been so cool. I was so looking forward to that.
Except for when Anakin flies into the droid ship. I thought that was pretty cool.
That was
neat.
that part was okay.
That one looked good. They did a really good job of
But
that.
so much of the space battle moves by at such a high rate of speed. I couldn't have told you it was in 3D anyway. Just and it went past the screen. So I was like, man, well, I'll bet it was cool. But so yeah, we had an eventful weekend.
What'd you do, Glenn?
I didn't do much. The only thing I got the oil change in my truck. Actually, Keith and I were kind of hectically busy this week because they had a tornado in Harveyville.
Oh yeah.
So our thoughts go out to the people of Harveyville. They've had one fatality there.
Yeah, and across the Midwest.
Across all of the Midwest, yeah.
How many?
It touched here close because Harveyville's, 40 minutes away from us?
40 minutes by car. It's even less than that actual mileage.
Yeah,
because the
but
highways don't go directly to it.
In the way of the crow flies, it's a lot shorter.
Yeah.
You can't fly there. So it's but yeah, they pretty much demolished a
good section of the town.
Third of the town, I think. I said they finally they had took the worst damage, but
and
so we were quite busy, and I ended
Missouri got hit really hard.
Branson got hit, and actually the worst I think so far has been Harveyville, Illinois. Harveyville, Illinois, and then someplace in Kentucky got hit yesterday.
Really, Harveyville, Illinois got hit?
Not Harveyville, Harrisburg, Illinois. Thank you.
Well, and then Georgia and Indiana got hit.
Yeah, they got today. No, that was today, wasn't it?
No,
was it the Southwest
Friday.
was today? Okay, maybe it was Friday.
Friday.
Oh, that's right. You ran the
Indiana
the package on it. Yeah. No, something got hit yesterday, and then
it
seemed like there was another one that got today, but wasn't.
Alabama
as bad.
got hit today.
That's
yesterday,
what
and it was like 10 months from the day.
That's
the
right.
Exact
You're
same
absolutely
town.
right. Yeah,
got
you're
hit.
absolutely right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
we're going to have an active spring, I think.
Yeah,
after
probably.
Severe weather
Especially since they weren't. Well, some of the ones down in the Southwest, they kind of knew they were going to have an active day the last few days.
Mm-hmm.
Here, Harveyville was a complete shock. They never even warned on the storm because they
weren't in a
like
tornado
that.
warning.
Yeah, the area was in a watch Tuesday night, and we were all in a thunderstorm watch. They didn't even have a thunderstorm warning on that storm though, because it just popped so quick, and it happens.
You mean tornado?
This is the Midwest. No, they weren't even in a thunderstorm warning that night.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
The tornado just popped.
But they were in a tornado watch and
they were in a tornado watch.
Thunderstorm watch.
Well, yeah. Once you're in a tornado watch, you're in both. So
yeah.
They don't continue to say thunderstorm watch and tornado watch. They just say tornado watch. So.
But yeah, the storm blossomed and sprouted.
It did.
And just kabam. So.
And the meteorologist that works for us, he was talking about how it really was a perfect storm. There was no way of being able to warn on that storm because of the way it developed. So,
and we were in the 9 o'clock newscast that I
when it
happened.
happened.
When it happened, and we had no idea because we were on set. I don't have.
Well, we were hearing scanner traffic because they were sending Shawnee County, which is the county we live in. They were sending Shawnee County down there to help respond because the Harveyville is actually in Wabaunsee County, which is a county away to our southwest. And we sent crews down there, and I ended up staying late so that I could update the internet, and everybody else could kind of get updates. So anyway, so that was that was the
kind of a hectic week.
Yeah,
good to have
that was the
low key weekend after that.
Yeah, exactly. So I just kind of rested this week. I didn't do much. Cleaned the house a little bit. Kids played outside because it's been nice.
Saturday night we watched 4 episodes of The Monkees in honor of Davy Jones.
You're reminiscing about Davy Jones, passed away this week.
Yes.
Oh, we lost a lot of people this week.
We did lose a lot of people this week. It was very sad.
Well, who else did we lose?
Speaking of, let's go ahead and head into news here. Let's talk a little bit about Ralph McQuarrie, the concept artist for the Star Wars films, and for all 6 Star Wars films. He was heavily the concept artist.
In
fact, a lot of the
artist for Close Encounters, wasn't he?
And Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica. A lot of 70s, 80s science fiction. Yeah. He's basically the mind behind a lot of the things you see on screen. Now, of course, they alter a lot. I mean, they change a lot once they get to screen. But you can thank the design for Darth Vader.
Oh,
you can thank Ralph McQuarrie for that. You can thank the design of C-3PO and R2-D2. Essentially, Ralph McQuarrie. I mean, Lucas has an idea.
Star Wars in particular, of all the things that he's done, Star Wars in particular is the one that I think translated almost directly off the painted page.
I wouldn't say directly.
Even his X-Wings. I mean,
the
all
X-Wings
of
are
the
probably
technology, all of the
TIE Fighters,
the TIE Fighters, the Death Star, all of that just looks like
the Death Star.
McQuarrie. I mean, it looks exactly like his prints.
Tweaks like C-3PO, originally a woman.
Yeah, it was more of a female robot, as in Metropolis. Like
very Metropolis.
Based off of Metropolis, yeah.
R2 is very similar. The
Slight
Jawas, if you look at the Jawas, they are almost cut from the pages of his concept art.
There are slight changes to Vader, but sad to see him go.
That was a huge blow, kind of a reverse serendipity, because we spent Saturday in Phantom Menace and come out. I was like, hey, cool, I saw Star Wars in the theater, and it wasn't but an hour later that I started seeing tweets, Ralph McQuarrie's dead. And I was like, oh, really?
Wow.
So that kind of sucked.
In the Doctor Who universe, we've also lost another actor. We lost Dennis Chenery this week. He was born in 1926 and died just Wednesday? Can't remember exactly which day it was. Earlier this week, and he is known for a few parts that he's played. He was in The Chase. He played Albert C. Richardson. He was the first mate to Mary Celeste in that. And then, of course, the one that we recall is Genesis of the Daleks. He played the college scientist Garmin. Oh, yeah, the H is silent. Garmin.
Which he's the one that we determined is, the kind of the... When things start to fall apart at the end, he's the lead scientist who's going to pull the scientific core away from Davros and say, we don't want the Daleks to be aggressive, and you have to restore the compassion to them. And then, of course, he gets gunned down. Yeah. Davros wants none of that. And
then he returned years later in the Colin Baker first episode, Colin's first episode, The Twin Dilemma. He played Professor Sylvest in that, So our thoughts go out to his family, and of course now he lived a considerably long life. So he was an older gentleman, but I mean that doesn't lessen the blow of somebody passing. Especially we seem to lose so many actors in the Doctor Who universe, but with almost 50 years of history, it's inevitable. So. Anyway, moving along to some news that on maybe a little happier note. We're going to let Keith talk about this, and we'll see if it's a little happier. Matt Smith was on Daybreak on ITV1 this week. Talked a little bit about Doctor Who. He talked a little bit about...
he talked first about Karen Gillan's exit from the show, and he says, it's sad for me. She's a great friend, and creatively, I have a really interesting relationship with her and Arthur Darvill. But the show is bigger than any of us. It's been going in 2013 for 50 years, and it will continue way after me. And so much of it is about change, and also you have to celebrate that. And it's kind of a reinvention, and how wonderful that someone invented a concept that the show can change so much.
Well, speaking of change, he also touched on a little something about his future with the show.
He spoke on being the Doctor. He says, it's a thrilling part to play. It's a thrill to play the part. We have a whole season to make and a Christmas special as well, so I won't be leaving anytime soon. We get this season out of the way and see where I'm at. I take it season by season, and I take the job day by day because there's no other way you can do it.
So I translate that into he's saying the same thing he said the last two times that we've heard this happen.
He's just phrasing it a little better.
He is definitely around for this next season, and then we're going to see where we go from there. I, again, still think he's off to Hollywood after that, but anyway.
We'll see.
I think he'll do some stuff with the 50th. But that's
and then in the same interview, there's been rumors circulating.
Well, prior to the same interview, there had been rumors circulating.
That Benedict Cumberbatch.
Which we're going to add to the list of things Glenn cannot say.
Cumberbatch.
It's right up there with Castrovalva.
Cumberbatch.
What's his first name?
Cumberbatch. Benedict, not Benjamin, as I said earlier. In the pre-show meeting, I said, Benjamin Cumberbatch, did I say that right? And I said, no, it's Benedict. So,
You didn't even get Cumberbatch right.
Cumberbach, I think I said it. Yeah.
Who plays Sherlock, of course.
Sure. Does he?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
On Sherlock?
On Sherlock.
On Sherlock.
Oh, be nice.
And Stephen Moffat's
Really?
show
Is Steven
run.
Moffat a showrunner for that too? Oh, be darned.
along with Mark Gatiss.
Everybody knows, of course, I'm joking. I've at least seen the first season of that. So.
There's rumors circulating that he might come on the show for the 50th anniversary, come on Doctor Who, as the Master.
That would be so cool.
That would be really cool. And Matt Smith spoke about this.
What did Matt
Not
Smith
much.
say?
Not much, but he spoke about it. He says, I know Ben and I have not heard anything about it. But he's a wonderful actor and a mate. I think he's a bit busy being a Star Trek villain, and he's Sherlock Holmes, of course, so he's a busy man.
So
That's all he said.
Essentially, he didn't confirm or deny, which means there's still a chance.
But how awesome would that be? To
I would love that.
I
think
Although Stephen Moffat once said, was asked once if he thought about bringing Benedict on, and he was like, "I don't think the show could handle that much hair."
I fall very much into the camp that I would love to get Benedict on in any capacity. I don't know that I want to see him as the Master.
The Master's been played out. That's just my
I
only
think
problem
that's-
is that
Bring him on
maybe
as
by
somebody
then,
else.
I don't know. But
Maybe by then we'll be ready for him to return. But
The rumors circulating were, I can't remember what exactly some of it was, but that the Doctor's ultimate villain, rival,
well, then he's going to play a Dalek.
he's sure not going to play a Cyberman.
That's not the ultimate villain.
his Moriarty.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's obvious with the parallel. It's just part of me, honestly, if we're going to bring the Master back again, I really don't see a reason to take it away from John Sim. That's part of it.
Well,
quite honestly, because
depending on how they bring him back,
Well-
the way he departed, it almost needs to be another actor.
but part of me, yes, but part of me also
the problem
thinks
is
that
he probably shouldn't come back as the way he left. But the Master always comes back.
he always
I should
comes
say,
back
yeah, we
anyway, so.
haven't been able to kill him in 50 years.
He'll be back at some point. You
really-
heard it here first. He'll be back. Maybe not next year. Maybe not the 50th anniversary. He'll be back.
But he's at the point where he's stealing bodies anyways. So.
Yeah, I really, and we talked about this with the exception of the way it was written in End of Time. I really liked John Sims' Master. I would love for him to get another crack at it that maybe was written a little differently. There's a part of me that would be really intrigued to see what Benedict would bring to the role of the Doctor. And I think if you bring him in as a,
I think he'd be too similar to Matt Smith.
I agree. I think they're cut
they're cut from the same cloth because they're written the same way.
Well,
I think if the minute Matt Smith leaves, you have to completely start rewriting differently.
I haven't
that's the
seen
problem
Benedict
is you
in
can't-
something else, so I don't know.
Well, we'll see him in Star Trek.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Which
he was just in
set
something
pictures.
too.
Warhorse,
That's what it was. Yeah.
which I haven't seen.
I haven't seen that either. But
And he was in The
something
Hobbit.
here. So.
Which we haven't seen yet. But
If Benedict,
that's true.
Well, yeah, but
Good
he's
point.
just the voice in The Hobbit.
was he just the voice? I thought he was.
He's Smaug.
Oh, he's Smaug. I thought he was a Hobbit.
No,
Freeman's the.
Yeah,
Freeman's-
John Freeman.
Okay,
Freeman's
I was confused.
Bilbo.
Yeah,
He's the main.
he's one of the hobbits. Isn't he?
Just one of them. I think he's
one
got
of
a
them.
cameo or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
small part. Because I know the Master would be written completely differently. But if Benedict were to come on the show as the Master, I'd almost rather see him come against a different Doctor than Matt Smith.
Because they're so similar.
Because they're so similar. I would love to see Benedict on the show in whatever capacity, but if it's as the Master, let it be after the 50th in the next generation.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know. I'd like to see them head to head, so I'm fine with it that way.
Maybe
What if he comes on the show as Sherlock?
that would be cool.
No,
Why not?
no.
Come on.
I'm as adamantly against that as you are in Doctor Who crossing over with Star Trek.
Then we'd have basis for
Not
the
needed.
video that
Not
came
needed.
out.
Not needed. Yeah, there was a video. Did you see the
I
video
saw the
released
video.
this
It
week?
was very funny.
Anything you can do, I can do better. All right. Anybody doesn't know the reference to that song? It's actually from Annie Get Your Gun, which I starred in when I was in 6th grade.
Oh,
I played Little Jake.
That's one show I never worked on when working in theater.
I played Little Jake, 6th grade. It's the first musical I was ever in. So, anyway, moving along.
Steven Moffat also recently said,
was this an interview with Radio Times, or just Radio Times reported this?
I think Radio Times. He told Le Village.
Oh, that's right. It was a French thing, wasn't it? Yeah.
So would that be?
But Radio
Le
Times.
Village?
Radio Times reported on this.
He reported on this.
Le Village.
About Steven Moffat saying new villains are best.
New monsters are better than old ones, I think he said. Yeah.
One of the temptations, is particularly if it's a success, is to keep repeating your hits, which means you hear it again and again and again. I always say new monsters are better in Doctor Who because you fall in love with monsters when they're new. And he's mentioned before not wanting to bring Daleks back. So that kind of lends to his stance on that. But on the flip side, the show's producer, Marcus Wilson, has told Doctor Who magazine that 2 monsters from Classic Who would be back in new series.
Well, I think they have to continue to bring the classic monsters back.
I think there's a fine line there.
They're so iconic, and the diehard fans really enjoy seeing them back if they're done right. However, on the flip side of that, I hope they continue to introduce new monsters because they've done a really good job.
And I think they will.
So far of introducing new monsters, just with the exception of possibly the Sylvine. But
I was about to say, not just in Moffat's era, but through our RTD also.
Yeah, because we've gotten, of course, this has been overused as well, but we got the Grask. We got the Weeping Angels.
Which are almost... We've only had 3 stories, but they're becoming so overused
as well.
I think what he's saying is not so much because obviously, according to that producer, we are bringing back classic. I think what he's saying is we're not going to reuse a lot of the same villains from RTD's era.
Right. Which is I'm fine with. I'm fine with because I think the Suntarans that we've seen have been done well. I think the Cybermen we've seen have been done okay. The Daleks, with the exception of maybe one story, I've actually enjoyed in RTD's era. I thought they were fine. They were utilized well.
Some of the Cybermen
just too frequently.
Yeah, exactly. But it wasn't until Moffat's era that we sort of
referencing the next Doctor for Cybermen. But I think other than that,
no, I thought those were fine. Those are Cybermen I remember. It's Age of Steel and Rise of the Cybermen. I still have a problem with saying, okay, we're going to go to an alternate universe and bring back a Doctor Who villain.
I think
those stories together are good storytelling. They're good writing. They're enjoyable stories. But I would have much rather have seen Cybermen from our universe. So
like we did in Closing Time.
That's what I don't have so much a problem with. Closing Time especially. Pandorica opens. We don't have the Cybus emblem on that particular one. So the ones from the next Doctor, yes, I think they are Cybus because I think they're referenced to ones that fell back through time,
they absolutely
out of the void. However, they're certainly even better than I think I think maybe at that point I'm used to Pete's World Cybermen from that point. But
I would if we're going to bring back classic Who villains, I would very much like to get some of the ones that have been brushed by the wayside under the carpet. Where are the Zygons?
Well, I was about to
Zygons,
mention that.
I'm
That's been
shocked
rumored.
We haven't seen the Zygons.
Really?
Yeah.
What's rumored for Series 7 is Zygons and Ice Warriors.
Oh, Ice Warriors.
So, I think maybe that's the reason why the As the Silent Stars Goes By has been written.
That could be,
I think that was kind of a feeler to see.
The response of it.
Would, think of bringing those back.
But they've still stood by the one episode story from what I've seen.
But you also look at things like the Autons, which were we hadn't seen since Pertwee's era.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they bring them back as the first episode of the new series. That was fantastic. The Nestine.
And then bringing them back in.
Well,
Pandorica open.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we get the Macra. I mean, even though it's like kind of a side villain sub-story reference, but that's from a serial that none of us have ever seen because it's been lost, the Macra Terror. I mean, I only know about it because I've read it or seen telesnaps. And so to just do the little nuggets and make mention like that, even I think is fantastic. I'd love to see more of that.
And anything that adds to the reminder that this is a continuation.
Adds to the mythos.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
we certainly get a lot of name dropping. We get a lot of planets and references to this, that, and the other thing. But it would be nice to see a couple of villains that. Oh wow! I mean, we haven't seen them since.
Right.
Let's update the makeup and bring back. And we even got a little bit of it with
Silurians. They did such a good job with that.
We got a little bit of it in the God Complex with the Minotaur creature that may have been
connected to the
Nyman.
Nyman, yeah.
I mean, I was like,
well,
I'd like to see
the Doctor
Nyman
all
come
but
back.
says
cool
that
too.
they're cousins essentially.
Yeah.
So that works well.
But I don't disagree either. That I love new monsters. I love seeing things that he hasn't come up against before. And I think it's refreshing occasionally. Well, I think it's refreshing to occasionally throw the Doctor into a situation where he doesn't know what's going on, where he can't immediately come up against it and go, "Oh, this is the so and so from the blah 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 universe," and you have to do it this way.
Right.
Give us something that you're not quite familiar with, and that heightens the.
But I don't want that every week.
No,
either.
no, I don't want it every week either.
I mean, if if he comes across a new monster to us, but an old monster to him, that's also an interesting dynamic. I've encountered these before.
Yeah, I don't know.
You haven't seen this adventure.
I think that does the viewer a disservice.
I just don't want to see.
That's almost cheating. That's almost the writer saying, "I'm going to fix it so that the Doctor already has the knowledge he needs in order to defeat these," by saying he's already seen.
I just don't want to see.
I don't mind that every once in a while, but if it becomes,
I just don't want to see my
work.
hero confounded every single week.
Unless
see, I like that because it's new, it's
new,
fresh to him,
but
and it lends into the Doctor's character of he absolutely loves discovery.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows so much because he's been exploring for so long. But realistically, when you have all of time and all of space, he's only been at this for 1,000 years. That's a drop in the bucket.
Right.
I mean, there's no way that he should be able to be as on top of the game as he's been for as long as he has.
Yes,
that's true.
And it was more so with RTD and David Tennant's Doctor especially, who kind of became the know-it-all, who knew, I've had this. I think Eccleston kind of spent a lot of time, it seemed like, in the Ninth Doctor's era with not quite sure what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is what this should be, but it's not.
And I think Matt Smith has had a lot of that, too.
I think Matt Smith has had elements of that. He's had a couple of episodes where he was just completely oblivious to what was happening. Oh, but then he knew about it by the time we got to the end. It was what I suspected.
Right, exactly.
So,
that happens with the Venice, Vampires of Venice. I mean, he knows of the species. He knows of the...
Yeah.
Well, I think there's one thing to know of, but not...
Well, but I like the complete mystery of it.
Yeah,
and I would especially like it if that managed to parlay itself into the overall story arc, going back to those little nuggets that are dropped, that every week is a completely new villain, a completely new monster, I've never seen this before, and why? And then you manage to tie all of that into the finale and go, this is why nothing has come back. It's like, that would be cool.
That's actually clever. Yeah.
Aside from the fact that apparently 2 are going to come back.
Well, yeah.
Well, I think they still need to continue to do that. I mean, as hardcore or average Doctor Who fans, even that are fans of the classic series, I think you really have to delve into. I mean, look at Star Trek. It worked for Star Trek for many years. I mean, they kept bringing at least species back and reintroducing us to them throughout the course of that as well, and that was necessary. I mean, we had Romulans, Vulcans.
Just as an interesting
I just don't
side
want Doctor
note,
Who to become so formulatic.
Yeah.
Well,
I agree there.
They haven't done that though
concern.
yet either. I mean, with the exception of the way they cut out seasons, how they run.
As an interesting side note, do you know how many Romulan episodes are in the original series of Star Trek?
Only 2 in there.
Only 2.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say.
And they don't make another appearance until the Ambassador in Star Trek 5.
The species doesn't.
The species doesn't. Well, even as a character.
Well, what's her name? Savick is Romulan.
She's half Romulan.
Oh, that's right. She is half
and that was never filmed. It was only in the novelization, and it kind of became backdoor.
That's right. And it became
backdoor canon.
It did become backdoor.
It was never.
Canon. You're right. You're absolutely right. Well,
I mean, I support it. It's definitely there. But
it's in the comic book adaptation as well, because she makes that comment in there as well. So, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
that is
backdoor canon on that.
But
But yeah, they never
technically
actually had another one until Star Trek 5, who was an ambassador, and then there was another one in Star Trek 6 who was an ambassador, and then we never see them again until Next Gen. So
Well, didn't 5 and 6 run pretty close to Next Gen? Didn't some of the
Next Gen was on
movies?
when 6 was.
Well,
was
yeah,
on,
I mean they were still.
Yeah.
Because Worf, or not Worf, Michael Dorn played his great grandfather.
I mean, if you're talking
Played
when
Worf's
they were
great-grandfather
released,
in it.
yes.
Yeah,
they were on concurrently.
Okay, that's what I'm
but
thinking.
within the universe
5
timeline.
wasn't.
that was
Oh, okay.
still
5
something.
wasn't, but 6 was. By
Yeah.
then, so.
Well, actually, 5 was 89. I think that was when Next Gen started.
Oh, I think they were in the
Next Gen
same
did
year.
start in
Yeah.
89.
88. No, Next Gen was 87. It had been on for 2 years.
And
Wow.
4 was in 80. Was released in
86.
80, oh, it was 86. I'm 2 years behind on all of them. Though. Okay, yeah,
Oh well.
yeah, no,
That's enough of that. You know who should come back? You know who the Doctor has not fought like in forever that they should totally come back with? Klingons.
He's explaining like we're going to get some sort of in joke or something.
No, that would be cool.
All right, any
Let's
other
move on.
news?
Nah, let's move on.
Klingons are cool.
Let's move on to feedback.
Well, we got one bit of feedback this week.
2.
2 bit of feedback this week. I have access to 1 bit of feedback.
2 bits.
2 bits.
Are you prepared? I'll read Holly's.
Okay.
Hey guys, love Podcast 61. Great opening. I have seen all the Sarah Jane Adventures series with the exception of for Series 5. The first season of the Sarah Jane Adventures, for it being the first series, I really enjoyed it. When watched and then again rewatching it, I enjoyed it a little more. Luke, Clyde, and Maria make a great group for Sarah Jane. She takes them under her wing when they went to investigate to help to stop the baddies of the week, and doesn't mind passing on and sharing some of the things that she's learned with her travels from the Doctor and her own research. In the pilot episode, I really loved how at the end Sarah decides to adopt Luke. I'm really glad that they only kept Kelsey for the pilot episode. I think we all are. She was okay, but I don't think I could have put up with a whole season of her. The interactions that Sarah Jane has with Alan are nice, sharing parental advice, and me thinks that Alan may have a slight crush on Sarah Jane. We also get the return of the Slitheen. Leave it to them to try and take over a school. The Eye of the Gorgon was a good episode, and we also find out that the sonic lipstick has the same problem as the sonic screwdriver. It doesn't work on wood. The Warriors of Kudlak was a pretty good episode, not my favorite out of Series 1. My favorite would have to be whatever happened to Sarah Jane. The Trickster was quite the interesting bad guy. I have to admit when the Trickster first showed up, I thought it was the Gorgon coming back, especially with the black cloak that covered the majority of his face when I first saw it. Alan now knows that what his daughter has been up to with Sarah Jane. The Lost Boys sees the return of the Celine, and we find out that Mr. Smith has an ulterior motive. This shocked me the first time I saw it. How could he be bad, and why didn't anyone realize it sooner? So glad that K9 was able to come back from the black hole briefly to help save the day. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the first series. Keep up the great work. Holly from Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. As always, Holly, thank you so much for your email.
Thank you so much.
And obviously, we'll get to our reviews and cover some of your points. I think.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I disagree with any of them.
Yeah.
Glenn, who you got?
Our other bit of feedback is actually a comment on our website from a new listener, from Neo Huvian. And she writes, "This is my first time listening to the podcast, and I listened because I wanted to reminisce about Galley, having already posted my own ramblings on my blog last week. What you had to say about LobbyCon/Thursday night really hit home for me. I was a first-time attendee this year, and I didn't actually get there until Friday morning. It took quite a while for me to feel anything resembling comfortable. I got that cliquish vibe at first, too. I was able to overcome my natural shyness and start chatting up with random people, though, and by the end, I did feel like I was among friends. Can't wait for next year, and no, it wasn't your fault." Thanks so much for rekindling my own memories. And if you would like to read more from Neo-Whovian, she has a blog called Confessions of a Neo-Whovian, and it can be found at www.neowhovian.com. Neo-Whovian, Neo-Whovian.
And she has some truly wonderful things up.
She does. I read some of her blog posts, specifically the ones having to do with Galley, because I wanted a little more than Sean gave us. But Sean's got a lot more to give us.
Radio Free Scarro interviews.
Yeah, those are fun too. I've done those this week too. So, anyway, I wanted to call that attention just in case you hadn't seen that, because she certainly connected with you through our podcast, listening to our coverage of Galley, or yours particularly. So.
And hopefully she's still listening, in which case, welcome to the show.
Yes,
absolutely.
And I've been chatting with her a little bit ever since I saw that post appear on the website. So I've kind of been back and forth, and I follow her now on Twitter and whatnot. And she had made the comment in one of her blogs that she attended the Doctor Who the movie live commentary where they got everybody together. Mm-hmm. And Mel and I were really torn on that one because that was happening on Sunday. And we felt like we had missed so much on Saturday by standing in the autograph lines and this, that, and the other thing that we really wanted to make sure that we had some more panels. And that one was like, it's Doctor Who the movie, everybody's going to be there, yes, I want to be there. But then as we kind of got into the day and started getting our, other things knocked out, we thought, honestly, we just watched it recently because we did it for Friday Night Who for New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
And I've watched it 3 times since it came out officially here in the States last year, because I watched it when we bought it and we were all excited, and then I'd watched it again, and then we watched it for Friday Night Who. And it's one that I've seen probably the most, with the exception of the 5 Doctors. It's probably the Doctor Who the movie is the one I've seen the most out of all of them. And one of those times I watched it with the audio commentary on to see what fun stories that they had. And I don't really feel like I need to sit in and see it again. Yes, it would be cool. Yes, it would be fun. But I don't know that I need to. And if we don't, we can go do this. So we decided, okay, we'll go take care of that. And Neo-Whovian had commented that one of the things that really struck her as funny was toward the end of it. First of all, she said she didn't miss much in the commentary because apparently a lot of it was blank stares from the guests going, I don't remember that. Do you remember that? Oh, I kind of remember this. Was this the day I was sick? Yeah, I think so. And then silence. Yeah, I think I was sick that day. I mean, that kind of
right.
thing, because I haven't seen it in 15 years. But at the end of the movie, when the Master gets sucked into the Eye of Harmony and is digested by the TARDIS, there's this round of applause that sprung up from the audience that, oh, yes, the Master is gone. Good job. And she said she because she had got very close up front where everybody was sitting, that it was Eric Roberts who started that round of applause. And so we had a good laugh over that apparently it wasn't my fault.
That's fantastic. So anyway, thought we'd interject that in here before we launch into our reviews of the Sarah Jane Adventures. Keith, why don't you read the synopsis for that?
All right, the pilots. Invasion of the Bane. Maria moves into her new home and meets her neighbor, Sarah Jane Smith. It's not long until both of them find themselves at the local bubble shock factory and in terrible danger.
Was that it?
That's it.
No.
What'd you guys think of the pilot?
Bubble shock!
Can I start by saying that I went into watching this entire series with kids' eyes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because you have to. This is a step away from...
There are some adult elements to it, though.
This is a step away from the way you watch Doctor Who. Doctor Who is geared as a family show that children are going to watch, but you're going to have equally as many adults and classic fans that are watching as well. Sarah Jane Adventures is a children's program that occasionally has brought adults in and is able to hold the adults' attention. Yes. I'm going to start by saying that, because if I went into it with the same mind frame that I do any sci-fi show that I watch, I would absolutely not like this. It would not be an enjoyable series. Even having Sarah Jane in it would not be enough to hold my attention. You have to know that
this is a kid's show.
However, going into it from that perspective and watching it with kids' eyes, I think they're fun and they're delightfully entertaining, and that's the best I can say for them overall. Now, this one of all of them feels the most like a children's show to me, because this one starts out with just the whole flashy bubble shock, as John just said. You know, it's just I can't believe that any cola or soft drink or anything would catch anybody's attention, even a kid. But it's played well. It's done well. This is a nice way to set up the series, to set up Sarah Jane, to connect her with Luke, connect her with Maria, and fortunately not connect her with what's the other gal's name? Kelsey. Just who was quite annoying.
Of this first episode, Kelsey is the weakest point.
Yeah. The other thing I enjoy, is that the main gal that's the head of the Bane is
Samantha Bond,
Miss Moneypenny from the Brosnan years of James Bond. So as soon as I saw her, I was like, I like her as Moneypenny. I'm going to like her in this. So, and just a totally different role for her.
Yeah,
and she
really
does a phenomenal job with it. So.
Oh, and the Bane I think is a rather interesting alien.
It is. It's intriguing
to introduce.
Now, her character, Ms. Wormwood.
Although,
Miss Wormwood.
Go ahead.
I'm going to launch into this now. Sean, you just watched this for the first time.
Yes, this is my first exposure to Sarah Jane in general. Well, Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yes.
Glenn, I'm assuming you've seen most of Futurama before you watch this.
Oh, yes, most definitely.
Slurm,
yeah. That's what it totally reminded me of that. Yeah, absolutely.
And I went and double-checked. Slurm came first.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Well,
for those that don't know, there was an episode of Futurama where it's a riff off of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah. And Slurm has always been around in Futurama, but then they end up doing the episode where
it's Fry and the Slurm Factory. I think is the actual episode title. And he goes and they do a whole Willy Wonka thing and discover that Slurm is actually from this mother juice, and it's totally what Invasion of the Bane, the main plot of it is.
Right.
So I
there are parallels. I'll go as far as saying
a lot of parallels to it.
Yes.
Lifted might be. Now, Mrs.
Borrowed
Wormwood,
a few ideas.
I'm going to go back to Samantha Bond because she kept. I watched this and I was like, God, she looks familiar. She sounds familiar. Where do I know that? And then it did. It hit me like a thunderbolt about midway through. It's Moneypenny! And I got very excited. And Mel's looking at me like, what? It's like, in the new Bond movies, this is the new Moneypenny.
Well, not the new ones.
Well,
the slightly new ones.
I refuse to acknowledge those yet. But
what? Sean.
We'll get into that on the Bond podcast.
Sean.
I don't like them. Daniel Craig's a mediocre Bond.
I still haven't seen Quantum.
He's not the Bond that we are used to. He's a way to reboot Bond. That's what
Bond
all
didn't
I will say.
Need a reboot.
Yes, it did.
No.
After 27
after
years,
they ran out the novels.
No.
No.
You can't even say that.
They didn't,
because there are only a handful of Bond films that are based on the novel.
Oh, really?
Now, almost all of them borrowed titles, and that's the extent of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it really didn't have much
unless
to do
you
with.
like For Your Eyes Only and Thunderball are the only two, and Thunderball was written as the movie before it was adapted as the book. I mean, it was being written by Ian Fleming, and I can't remember the man's name that is the co-writer on Thunderball,
who's been remaking it for 30 years.
There's been there was one official remake, and then one that was in the works that never dropped because of litigation. But yeah, sorry, I'm not. I'm sorry to correct you, but
I don't know that much about Bond.
If you read the novels, they often have borrowed elements, but beyond that, they're very, very much different.
For those of you listening that don't know,
Moonraker was about missiles and not space shuttles, and, that kind of thing.
Glenn would be our Bond geek.
If we were doing
he is now. I enjoy the Bond movies and I love them, and I've read a couple of the books. Glenn is the end all be all knowledge of Bond, And I will say this again because I don't think he heard me in his fit of rage that appeared over his face.
Sorry, it wasn't even rage. It was just one of those, I got to make sure this is corrected because I want this out there. That
The Bond franchise did not need a reboot. Anyway.
But if you're going to reboot it, you reboot it in this. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back here. If you reboot it in the vein of you take the very first novel, which is by far the best Bond novel ever, and you modernize it for the 21st century, and you do it like it parallels the novel, with the exception of one is taking place in the late 1950s, one's taking place in the 2000s. It is essentially the same.
And they're playing
they're playing
Texas
poker
Hold'em.
as opposed to baccarat.
Yeah.
But that was well done. And if you're going to reboot the series, you start from square one and you do it that way. And that was done well. Now, Quantum's not as good of a film. I agree. But Quantum is one of those ones where if they are able to do it right, Quantum is not based on a book. It again, we went and borrowed titles from. Well, that's not even the title of a book, I don't believe. That Quantum of Solace it was James Bond, or not James Bond, it was Ian Fleming's ranch house or whatever.
No, that's Goldeneye.
Oh, that's right.
Goldeneye is his
was.
house in Jamaica.
It was his. Well, no, but I think
Who
Quantum
names
of
their
Solace.
house? That's the point
No,
where
you're absolutely
I
right.
want to become successful enough that I can name my house. Skywalker Ranch. Goldeneye. Who does that? That's my goal.
Quantum of Solace was an expansion of what happens after, and it's actually the way it's being set up is the middle book to a trilogy. But there was no book of Quantum of Solace. But there was a short story, I believe. But what they did is they expanded on the events, and there should be, if they make the third movie and they're going along the pattern that they established, the third movie should be an extension of the first two films.
But it's not.
Well. That's the problem, is they got away from that because Quantum didn't do as well as they wanted it to.
Yeah.
But Ian Craig is a phenomenal Bond. It's a different take on Bond.
Ian
but
Craig?
It's Daniel Craig. But it's a different take on Bond, but it's really more of the elements that Ian Fleming put forth in the novels. And that's why I am endeared to it, because of the fact that this is the Bond that I felt that I was reading when I went back and read the novels, because I kept trying to picture Sean Connery when I was reading these, because he was the first James Bond. But the books are not written in the way that Connery played the Bond role.
Right.
Daniel Craig is playing it the way that Ian Fleming wrote the role. And so that's why it works for me. And if you're going to reboot something that's become stagnant and unrealistic over 30 years of history, because you can't have the same James Bond in post-Cold War that you had during the Cold War, because he'd have been Roger Moore now. He'd been a 75-year-old man it doesn't work. So,
I totally agree with that, and I think there were other ways to do it than just to chuck 40 years of history and say, well, let's start over and reboot it. I'm not a fan of reboots, period.
I'm not either. And I will defend that to the day.
I don't like the policy.
And I was afraid. Now, the big mistake they made was bringing Judi Dench back in as M, because that really blurs the whole. That makes it gray, because she's playing M. Yeah. And she was M, and so then a lot of those people that come over from even Brosnan are confused, because now, wait, is this supposed to be before Brosnan's? It doesn't work. But anyway, sorry,
but we love
got
Judi
way
Dench.
off on that. We do love Judi Dench, and she does a fantastic job as M. But
Sarah Jane.
we are talking about Sarah Jane here.
And if you'd like to drop us a
sorry
note
to the listeners for tangenting so
at Vortex Glenn.
Yes, please. And if you want to talk more Bond,
Glenn at travelingthevortex.com.
that's right.
And you can write a 4-page article for the website. Since I have to do one on Star Trek, you can write one on
because nobody's requested
the reinvention.
Yeah.
I'm requesting it now. You can write one on the reinvention of Bond so that I can comment on it on the website. But there's Moneypenny, and
yes, there is Moneypenny.
It thunderbolted me that I was like, oh, there she is.
It thunderbolted you?
It thunderbolted
Did it thunderball
me.
you?
It didn't thunderball me. Thunderball's a mediocre movie.
Oh, Sean!
Yeah, I went there.
Oh my god!
And its remake
Sean.
is even more mediocre.
Yeah, well, I would agree with that. Thunderbolt's awesome. That's one of the best Bonds.
Oh, it's okay.
Well, we're gonna have to do another podcast.
Damn. So her character,
you can be the newbie.
I'll have to be, because I played the crap out of Nintendo 64's
Joined
gold die.
007 this week as he beats up the bad guys.
There's a lot less to farm from there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It'll be however long, unless we delve into the books.
We can do that we can do that in a year. Sorry, we are talking about Sarah Jane Adventures here, and I'm sorry that I get after you guys for segueing so much, and then you touched on this is the Bond geek. Yeah, that's fine.
I poked the bear with a stick.
I'm not grumpy about it. I'm just saying
You poked the bear with a silenced gun.
You're certainly poking me with saying that Thunderball's a mediocre.
Thunderball's a mediocre.
No,
I'm looking forward to
now I'm getting
Skyfall.
grumpy.
I'm looking forward to it. I just
Is that what they officially?
Skyfall's the official title.
Now
And
that
it has
Okay.
MGM is out of bankruptcy.
yeah, it has zero to do with the two stories previous. Which, in a way, I'm going to segue now into this. I almost don't mind that in a way, because while that was one of the elements that I did enjoy about the Daniel Craig Bonds is that we've got Quantum and we've got this nameless, faceless organization bad guy, kind of like Spectre.
Yes,
and I was
that
like,
was
okay,
the idea.
I enjoyed that aspect of it. And if we're going to parallel this to the fullest extent, well, Goldfinger didn't have anything to do with Spectre.
But
it was a completely separate, outside the universe.
That's what they need to
encapsulated
not
film.
do is parallel, and that's what they're going to do is because it worked 40 years ago. They think it's going to work again, and it's a different era.
Yeah, it's a totally different era. That's why. Anyway, so her character, Moneypenny's character,
Moneypenny.
Samantha
Miss
Bond.
Wormwood.
Which isn't it funny that Samantha Bond and you're in a Bond film? Really?
I bet they did that on purpose.
No, it's totally. Well, maybe it was. Your last name's Bond. Come work for us.
I think it was random. Go ahead.
But her character, Ms. Wormwood, has she shown up before? Mel and I were both kind of getting
Shown
tingles
before in what?
in Doctor Who or anything. We both got tingles like this sounds almost familiar.
She
like we should
reminds
have
me
known
of
this.
the nanny.
That's what Mel said in the Partners in Crime with the adipose.
Of the adipose, yeah.
Mel said the same thing. She goes, "Isn't that the nanny?" And I'm like, "No, it's not," because it's
No,
a different
she's very-
character.
she-
And then when I realized
she's
it was
very
Samantha
reminiscent,
Bond,
yeah.
it was like, okay, it's a totally different woman. But
It's very reminiscent of that character,
I couldn't
yeah.
find
I think
any
that-
history. I couldn't find anything. But there's just something about the character that really triggered this familiarity of, wow, I've seen you before somewhere. Not from Bond,
Only
but from
in these
Doctor
two
Who.
stories.
But yeah, I couldn't find anything. So I wanted to verify with you guys that I wasn't completely
another one.
crazy, but just a little bit.
It did have a very almost not classic, but RTD era feel to him. I mean, especially the Jagger Fresh in the sea lane.
I
There's
think
a reason for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously.
I think that the reason you get that feel is because, with the exception of one other episode of Sarah Jane, Russell T. Davies actually co-wrote this one.
Yeah.
He actually co-wrote this one. I think Phil Ford was the writer on this one.
Gareth Roberts.
Oh, it was Gareth.
Yeah,
yes.
Gareth-
And Gareth
Gareth wrote quite a bit
partnered
of
it.
this season,
Yeah,
didn't
that's
Gareth's
right.
all over this
Gareth
show.
and Phil both wrote the majority of the episodes. I think is what I had read, but not of this season, but of a whole. And so so Russell had a lot to do with that episode, and beyond that, the only other one he wrote, and he wrote by himself, was Death of the Doctor. So he actually got to write for Matt Smith's character, which would be the first time he ever got to write for Matt's Doctor. But so that's why you get a lot of feel of, I think, is they set this up as a Russell T spectacle, which is what it feels like. But it's done well. It's fun. It's not bad at all.
No. I don't want to give that impression.
It's a very
Which, by the
fun
way,
start.
Russell wrote Partners in Crime, so that might be why.
Yeah, maybe that was it. I kind of agree with you. I went into this. You have to go into it a little bit with the kid eyes, like you said. That this is it's a different show. It's not Doctor Who, and I kind of had to keep reminding myself of that before we started. It was like, don't get it's a kid's show. Keep in mind it's a kid's show. And I'll be honest, maybe it's because I set my expectations at a different level going into it with the kid eyes. I was really surprised on the whole how much more I got out of this season than what I was expecting. I mean, I knew it was going to be enjoyable. I knew that I was going to have fun with it. I wasn't expecting to care about the characters as much as I did.
Maria's, I think, is a fantastic
She is a fantastic character. I love Alan. I love her dad.
Luke,
her mom can go jump off a cliff.
Oh yeah, she
well, that's the point, though. That's why she's interjected in there, because you're supposed to feel that way about her.
That's part of the downfall of Invasion of the Bane is we have two obnoxious characters in this entire story.
Yeah, one of them is just enough to deal with. I really felt
she eats small doses.
Maria's mom feels like she's been given the absolute worst qualities of Jackie Tyler and the absolute worst qualities of Donna Noble.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
And meshed together and turned loose, and it's like, ugh.
That's what she feels like.
I mean, there's just no redemptiveness there. Now, they tried in, what was the Gorgon one?
Eye of the Gorgon.
Eye of the Gorgon. Yeah. When Alan's been turned to stone, and she comes in and starts feeling sorry, and wow, Sarah Jane's really creepy, but she's got the statue of you, but then still sorry for the fact that she doesn't have him anymore, and then the statue cries, and it's like, aw, I still hate her.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
the only redeeming part.
It was a very, very brief moment, and as soon as she turned around and walked off, I was like, yeah, I still don't like you. But, yeah, the bubble shock, it felt very first season Who, in a way. It kind of had really that immature-ish, but we're still going to go have fun and do things.
We need to find our feet kind of thing, yeah.
Well, I noticed this my second viewing, because I rewatched all of this. I mentioned before that I'd watched season 1.
Right.
I didn't notice it because of my gleefulness of, oh, look, it's Sarah Jane. She does not come across as pleasant in most of this story.
Not in this one.
In most of this season, quite honestly.
Well, this one specifically.
This one
I think
more so.
This one and the last one.
Yeah.
She just... she's very standoffish.
She's don't come near me. I'm a lone wolf.
Right.
Well, I enjoyed the portrayal of her as she's the crazy mad woman on the block, because the Doctor's the madman with a box, and she's the mad woman in the witch in the attic or something.
The Doctor's eccentric. She's almost like standoffish. That's what I didn't like.
Almost rude.
Yeah. When she kind of gives Alan the brush off in the pilot episode. But she's got that.
Well, and they even bring back up in the final one that she was frosty.
Yeah,
but I think
that's a good word.
That was a very good word.
Yeah.
Frosty.
I think it works for her character because she is a journalist. She is somebody that has to go in no nonsense and do interviews and ask the hard questions, and so I think that lends to her character. And I think what the kids do is they soften her, and that's what
maybe
works
it's just hard for her to turn it off.
Exactly,
at the end of the day when she gets home.
I think it's because it's the journalist.
I think part of it also, as she references, is she's traveled with the Doctor. She knows how dangerous it can be,
right?
And she doesn't want to put anyone else in danger.
I don't know that it was necessarily that so much as it was just that there were little character traits that I found myself going,
that's not
my Sarah Jane wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
When she snapped at one of the kids for don't touch things in my attic. That seemed very kind
possessive at that point.
It's almost like she's been alone for too long.
Let's put it this way, though. Something that I think we're missing the boat here, and we probably should have done before we watched Sarah Jane, is there is a series of great Big Finish audios that are called the Sarah Jane Smith Adventures, and they don't deal with the supernatural. She's not chasing aliens in those. I haven't listened to them, so I'm speaking just on what I understand of them.
Phil, let us know.
However, she's a journalist in those, and so she's this is years after her. Travels with the Doctor. It stays in the same vein of that's what compels her to continue her journalism and to explore. And they're more kind of mysteries type things that are set up and woven. So what I appreciated about Sarah Jane Adventures is even though we're going into some science fiction and some alien and whatnot as well, they still stayed with the idea that she is a journalist,
which is established when she is introduced in Doctor Who.
Yes, exactly. Well, she is. That's what she's doing there at Unit is doing the story. But so I like that, and that almost excuses for me her as I was just relating earlier. That almost excuses to me her frostiness. That she's that's because that's who she is, and that's because of her profession. That it's not until the kids step in and kind of soften her a bit. As it's especially Luke. It's especially her connecting to Luke and taking her under his wing, under her wing.
I
think so too,
extent.
because she obviously builds a trust with Maria because of a later episode when she gives the box.
She almost Maria's relationship with her feels very much like the daughter that she never had.
Yeah.
whereas Luke's the adopted son. Maria's kind of come along as the...
I disagree with that. Let me say, because we're kind of getting into an overall feel of the series here instead of tackling this one by one, but the impression that I get of her relationship with Maria is I think she sees a young her. I think she sees her traveling with the Doctor and how the Doctor treated her on a respect level. Not necessarily a child. He didn't treat her like a child, although sometimes he does. But he didn't treat her like a child. He treated her like an equal. Maybe not on the same par of what he is, but he always treated her like
an adult.
He did. He treated her like an adult. And I see her seeing a young version of herself in Maria, even though Maria is quite younger than she was when Sarah Jane traveled with the Doctor. I almost see that relationship that the Doctor had with her. They almost have that really close friendship. And I see that more than a daughter thing because I don't feel like she always feels like she needs to protect Maria. I almost feel like she trusts Maria enough to make the right choices and do the right things.
She sends her into investigation.
Now, with Luke, I do see a mother-son relationship there. And so I agree that he is the son that she never had. And that's why, because she feels he is so new to what's happening, because essentially he's born in this episode. I mean, he's born shortly before this episode. That's his birth. And so I think she feels a motherly connection to him. But I've throughout this entire first season, I felt that her and Maria have a respect for each other, and that's what I appreciate, because she knows that Maria has a mother. She knows that Maria has a father, and so she doesn't try to step into that role in any way. She becomes a surrogate friend for her and a companion, and like she's her companion.
That's a good point.
What I like about it.
I hadn't thought of it in that term, but now that you've laid that out there, I totally see where you're coming from, and you're absolutely right. That's exactly what it is. I mean, it's she's willing to do the things for Maria that the Doctor did for her. And now she has the hindsight to go along with it and know why the Doctor did this.
Yes, exactly.
And
there you go.
You're absolutely right. I hadn't thought of that.
But let's focus back in on Invasion of the Bay, because I think we should tackle these at one at a time.
The introduction of the sonic lipstick.
Yes.
I think that's so cool. I want to know where it came from.
Again, that's another thing that the grown-up, cynical me would look at and go, oh, come on, a sonic lipstick. They're just copying the sonic screwdriver. But it's a device that Sarah needs in order to be that get-out-of-jail-free card and work for her. And so looking at it from kid eyes again, I enjoy that. And I go, okay, that's funny, and it's a neat little toss back to the sonic
I'm going to allow it.
I'm going to allow it, exactly.
Yeah, I have no problem.
I have no problem with that now.
And because you're setting us up with a device that we love and hate, that we kind of know what we're getting into with it.
Yeah.
We kind of knew instinctively as soon as she pulled it out and did her thing with it, and it was sonic lipstick. In the back of your head, you're going, but it won't do wood.
Right, exactly. I mean, the same thing.
We've got the established ground rules.
If that works on wood, then we've screwed this up. But we didn't.
We've got the established ground rules with this, so we're okay.
Yeah.
I thought the Bane were very cool.
That's a great concept.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're very squid-like.
No, don't do that. Don't shoehorn them into a anthropomorphic character, because they are not.
They're not.
They are not.
If anything, they are
the first time I saw them change, I went, why doesn't Doctor Who do this? Every character in the Sarah Jane Adventures first season, I looked at and went, that's an original idea.
Yes.
That's an original idea. That's what Doctor Who should be doing. That's what I said every time they had an interview.
I know. I agree with you. I thought all of the monsters...
No squid-like at all, so don't even say that.
Well...
They're not squid-like at all.
They're squid-like, but they're not anthropomorphized.
They're not anthropomorphized.
They're not even squid. They are elseworldly. No, they are. You could show me that. They are elseworldly, alien-looking creatures. I'm sorry, they are. They don't look like squid. They don't have six six tentacles like squid do.
I'm not making even that much of a parallel to it.
You threw that out there. Yeah, sure, they look squid-like because you were trying to placate me. And what I'm saying is you don't even have to placate me.
No, I'm saying the fact that they resemble in some ways.
No, they don't.
Octopus type.
No.
Animals.
Squid, yes, I'll buy, but octopus, not at all.
They've got tentacles. All right,
they're squid with.
No, keep going with your thought, because we're not going to visit this because it doesn't have. I don't have a problem whatsoever with the Bane.
Regardless, it's a tentacle.
It's a tentacle monster.
It's a tentacle monster.
Okay,
yeah, absolutely.
Despite the fact that it's a tentacle monster, it's a cool tentacle monster, and it looked good, and the visual effects were good,
fantastic.
And when it first disrobed and did its thing, it was like, that's kind of cool.
And then the fact that it was climbing on the ceiling
when it climbed
on the walls.
It wasn't just because I got the same vibe that you did. It was like really kind of feels like the Jagareth up in the Jagarfress, whatever it was, the thing in the ceiling, and they're talking to it. But then it came down and it started interacting with things, and it was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And it's climbing on things, a little spider-like.
Yeah. Well,
can I say that?
What doesn't work, what works for it is it's not a big blob of goo that occasionally has a mouth and eyes.
It's not the upside down nesting,
and it's a giant looking. Yeah, exactly. It's a giant looking tentacle monster.
but when it gets out on the street,
wanted to say squid.
When it goes to Sarah Jane's house, it gets out on the street.
But that was another bane. That wasn't the mother bane.
Well, no, but when they get out on the street and it lunges up the stairs and it's knocking things off the house, trying to get up into the attic to get them, it was like, I'm feeling a little anxious at this point for a quote unquote children's show. Well, my heart was starting to race. Now there were a couple of scenes where they obviously gave Sarah Jane a little bit of a head start to get up the stairs away from this thing because, a horror movie, it would have got her. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
It would have ate her. It would have ate the kids. That was the end of it. But, okay, we'll forgive that. And it's struggling to get up the stairs. And I just thought, this is a cool monster. I like this. As the fact they eat their young and that they do everything about the Bane I thought was very cool. I really enjoyed that aspect of the story.
Let me put this in some perspective for me. If I had seen this monster in Doctor Who with its adult, its more grown-up premise, and its budget for special effects, I would have said that doesn't quite do it. That looks a little off-the-shelf CGI. From a children's television program perspective, I went, wow, this is great CGI from that perspective. I thought that was fantastic for what this is. It's a half-hour children's show, and they really went all out on this. So that puts a little perspective.
An hour long.
If I'd have seen that creature in the way that it was done in Doctor Who, I'd have gone, you skimped on the special effects. But they didn't. It went above and beyond for this episode.
But you would have been forgiving of that because it wasn't an anthropomorphic.
No, probably. Now,
and it's Doctor Who, never known for special effects.
That being said as well, I absolutely love the concept of it, and I think that one of the things that we're missing here is that if you watched if this show was made for American kids audiences, it wouldn't have been as intense.
Oh, absolutely not.
It wouldn't have been as scary, as creepy. You would have not have seen the creature as much, and we wouldn't have dealt with the possibility of anybody dying. And that's what I like about British television is they treat kids like responsible kids. They don't treat kids with kid gloves. They don't treat the target audience of this is probably 7-year-olds to 14-year-olds, your tween audience. They in the United States they would have treated that with, well, that's too scary and too violent and too we don't want to.
And they probably would have thrown in a
musical number. To deal with death. I got news for you. You got an 8-year-old daughter. She knows exactly what death is. Okay, so don't sugarcoat it for me. Put it out there that these are dangerous beings and this could happen. And that's what I appreciate about British television is they put it out there. Doctor Who's been doing it for years. Doctor Who started out as a kids show. They weren't afraid to deal with death. Kids show in the United States, they're afraid to deal with death.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to deal with death. My daughter is smart enough and intelligent enough to deal with that. And if she has questions, she will come to me and she will ask me. And that's what I appreciate about Sarah Jane. And so that's another thing that this one has going for it is they don't pander to. Now the death toll's not high. In fact, nobody is killed on screen.
Yeah.
The people that you think probably are in fatal peril don't end up in fatal peril, and I'm fine with that. But they don't skirt the issue of they don't A-team it where the military jeep rolls 5 times and the guys are clearly going to die, and then they come crawling out the sides. That was always one thing that bothered me back in the 80s was all of these shows, nobody died, and I always bugged the heck out of me. However, so that's what I liked going for this, and that's what I think Sarah Jane has going for it, is it treats kids intellectually. And that is well done, and that's illustrated in here.
I absolutely agree.
The threat is real, and that's what
the threat is very real.
Yeah.
And that lends
in all
to
the series. The threat is real.
Yes,
that lends to her standoffish, protective nature of the kids. That,
this is too dangerous.
This is too dangerous
something
for you
can
to do.
happen.
Something
to you.
could happen. That the threat is out there, and it's not just Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
It's not just that the kids are running around loose at the malt shop and going to go, hey, what do you want to do tonight? I don't know. Let's go hang out at Old Man Winter's amusement park and see if we can get in trouble. All right. I mean, there's that level of responsibility there. And I like the fact that the adults in this also treat the children with that same level of respect. They give them their freedom. But Alan especially.
Alan is such a great character.
He is a great character. There's nothing I don't like about this man.
He's not an overprotective father, but you can tell he would do anything for his daughter.
Absolutely. When she goes running off to go do something, and he's like, "Okay, where are you going? Who are you going to be with?"
Right.
Kiss me on the cheek. And she's like, "Dad, kiss me on the cheek."
Right.
And she comes over to and he says, "Okay, go have fun." And that's the end of it. And that's just wonderful that he has that.
They have such a good relationship in general.
They really do.
They do.
What did you guys think of Mr. Smith?
Infinitely intrigued and wanting to. Where did this come from?
Yeah, I was the same way.
Why is Mr. Smith living
back in my mind? I'm thinking, how much of this stuff did Sarah get from the Doctor? The Sonic lipstick. I'm still convinced that she didn't come up with that. The Doctor left her with that technology.
I want to say there was a reference to her getting it from somewhere, but I don't remember.
Could be. Mr. Smith, I thought the same thing. Did the Doctor leave this with her? Now later they toy with the idea of how
they kind of
Mr.
explain
Smith
where Mr. Smith
came
comes
about.
from.
And a lot of her stuff comes from technology that she has gathered.
Yeah.
That is alien technology.
I want to say,
in fact, I felt she was basically a one-woman Torchwood. That's really what it feels like.
I want to say in the pilot that she referenced that. Well, she obviously references that it's an alien computer.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, she says that.
The design of Mr. Smith, to me, is almost console-ish. There are elements to it that look like the console.
I didn't glean
kind of
that,
an inverse instead of
instead of a round. It's
what's the six-sided?
Hectagonal.
Instead of a hectagonal, it's almost if you were to flip it this way and open it up on the one end.
Yeah,
I could kind of see that.
I didn't get that. But
there are those panels that open up that they never touch. And it's
want them to
some
explain.
Of those are like.
Do they ever explain the fanfare?
From what I've seen, no. But maybe that's just Mr. Smith saying, "Ha, I'm important." Or maybe
I love the element of the fanfare there. Again, from the grown-up sci-fi, I would have said that was so cheesy. Watching from kids' eyes, that's just the coolest thing.
I almost rationalize it in my head that it's the incidental music more than it's actually coming from.
I would have
Smith.
thought that after the first episode, after the second episode, but it just because the steam comes out
and there are reaction shots of Sarah Jane, her hair blowing away, and
it looks like there's an organ built into this thing too, and that's where the fanfare is coming from. And so I don't know. I
think Mr. Smith is a great addition to the show.
I do too,
and that you need that. Sarah can't do this
really
by
trips
herself.
You up once you get to the sixth part of this series, though.
But Sarah can't do this by herself. She needs help, and that's where Mr. Smith comes in.
Mr. Smith is a good vehicle to also allow Sarah and the kids to be able to do this themselves, to be able to be the one-man band Scooby-Doo gang is what it's.
It would almost be too much of a stretch of the imagination if Mr. Smith wasn't there.
Yes, I would agree. I would totally agree.
I would agree with that, too. How glad are we that Kelsey's not around?
Oh,
now, I mean nothing against the actress.
She did a great job. She was a cute little gal. She was very over the top and annoying. What it was she was Clyde tenfold, and that was the problem. Is when they figured it out when they introduced Clyde in the next episode, how to tame that sidekick character.
You know what set me off about her?
Tame that comic relief.
When she is first introduced and she walks across the lawn and into the front door and sits down on the couch and strikes up this conversation. I don't like you. Instantly. That's just, who are you? Why are you in my house? I don't care.
I like strong-willed characters.
If you want to come over and introduce yourself on the lawn and pick up a box or something, hey, can I help? Fantastic. That's a friendly neighbor. Don't invite yourself all the way into the house before you speak to me and barge in and just start talking like, oh, by the way, you just moved in, but we're going to go hang out at the soda pop factory.
I thought the same thing. The character was just way too strong, and I think that's what they did. Is they did this because. Invasion of the Bane was a New Year's Eve special, is what it was. It was 1 hour, and it was. They don't do pilots technically in the UK, but this was the pilot. This was to get a feel for the series and get a reaction how this was going to work. Even though they had already had the first series kind of hammered out at that point, but this was a good introductory special to the series in order to get us on the right foot and see where we're going. But what they also did with that is they looked at it and they stepped back and they said, okay, this is what works about this episode, what works about this series and what doesn't, and they readjusted that for the first episode.
They really
actual
did.
First episode. Of the series.
Let's move on.
Let's get into the original first episode.
Sure. Revenge of the Selene. Maria and Luke start their new school where they pal up with another boy, Clyde. However, the two of the teachers and the class genius turns out to be Slethenes in human form, whose aim is to destroy the Earth by turning off the sun with the aid of a machine which Luke inadvertently helps them to start. The three teenagers are chased around the school by the Slethene family. The kids escape the Selene and meet up with Sarah Jane at their house. They discover vinegar will kill the Selene and arm themselves with vinegar.
Summary, not a synopsis.
And arm themselves with vinegar bottles.
And
then go and fight them.
Yep, there you go.
and then they fight.
Thank you, Sarah Jane Adventures production team, for being forthright with me and telling me who was going to be in this episode. Thank you. And I say that because I was able to go in already saying, okay, I'm going to have to accept that this is a Slethene episode. I'm going to have to just accept it. And that was helpful to me.
Slethene were bad. Slethene children.
I'm going to go on to say that I actually enjoyed this episode. This was one of the favorite episodes. Despite the Slethene.
One of my favorites.
Here's the thing. The Slethene work as a children's alien
they do
villain.
Much.
They do not work as a Doctor Who villain for me. They absolutely work as a Sarah Jane villain for me.
Yes.
That is what they are catered to. And the fart jokes, the gas interchange, the silliness of the family itself, it works for me in Sarah Jane. And I totally enjoyed this episode from beginning to end, and introducing the element of a young Slethene was brilliant. Loved it. I love the fact that Luke was one-upping this kid and he had this jealousy streak going.
Yeah.
That was terrific. I loved that.
I agree with you. I kind of went into it going, Slethene are back. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we'll see. The tone, the feel, everything about the Slethene tells me that, well, that's where we missed the boat. This is not a Doctor Who villain. This is not something from my show. This is something from this kid's show. Okay, I totally get this now. That these are one of those things that, kind of fit in here.
Which, and I didn't think the gas jokes were as much as in Doctor Who. I thought they were a little tamed down.
But I think they did that out of necessity because they were already there.
Maybe it's because, though, that we knew they were coming.
Yeah.
No, that's possible.
They were so out of the blue.
I knew it was going to happen.
And it's like, what?
Well, and
but
that's
then
just
this one, Revenge of the Selene.
Well,
okay.
Also, the kids react appropriately. When somebody farts, kids laugh.
Yeah.
And that works because it's a bunch of kids reacting to that and laughing. And so that works. If the Slethene had been the villains in School Reunion, that might have worked better because they were in a school, although this would have turned out looking a lot like that. They would have been in school, there would have been kids reacting to it, and it would have made more sense. But when it's the government. It's 10 Downing Street, and we've got these, government officials that are walking around farting and it becoming a joke, and it doesn't work. But it works in a school with kids that react to that kind of thing and laugh.
Which I meant to bring up before we moved on. After rewatching Invasion of the Bane, I totally went back and rewatched School Reunion. I was like,
I did see you tweet that.
I need...
Or no, you didn't tweet that. You told me at work.
I told you about that at work, but yeah.
The Slethene child was
except for he couldn't keep his head down. The suit didn't work.
The suit doesn't work for a child.
I can't see where I'm going because I've got my head in the air all the
It's not
time.
threatening, and the legs are so short.
The Slovene are not
Wobbling down the hall.
It's a penguin.
the Slovene are not scary in general. While the Bane, okay, that was kind of cool, scary, climbing up the stairs thing. The Slovene are not scary.
Sean says, "Ooh, squishy marshmallow face."
I did it again. I started laughing.
And then the kid comes out and he goes, "Ooh, little squishy marshmallow face."
I embarrassed myself. Mel and I watched this. You know how we started watching Sarah Jane Adventures on the plane back from Galley. So I've got the computer booted up, and I've got my digital copy ready to go, and my earbud is in one ear, and she's got the other end in hers because we didn't bring two, so we're sharing the earbuds. And the Slovene show up, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, we got through Bane, all right, and we're on the plane, and we're doing this. And then the Slovene show up, and it's like, okay, and I'm giggling. I'm chuckling in my seat because I can't take him seriously. And then the kid disrobed, and I lost it. And people were looking at me like, what is he watching over there? What is that strange squishy green marshmallow thing? The air marshal was kind of keeping one hand on it. Is this guy all right? So, yeah, I couldn't take him seriously at all. And I appreciate that they tried, that they, this is my kill, my hunt. I'm going to go be a man now. All right, you let me know how that turns out. But
I think the biggest thing that comes away from these two episodes is the introduction of Clyde.
Yes, absolutely.
The only thing missing from this chase sequence is if the kids had run across the hall and the janitor was there with the floor waxer, and then the Slovene kid came running in and went across the floor. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Talk about Clyde some more.
Clyde is such a fantastic character. I mean, he's so reluctant to all of this, but then
he's not here, but but that's how he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
He becomes fantastic because of this episode.
Yeah, because of this episode. And he's the one, he comes off as cocky in the first story.
Cocky and cruel even a bit.
Yeah. But then he's the one that discovers, oh wait, the vinegar is what does them. That is fantastic. And that
he even throws that in the film. I figured that out, remember?
Yeah. You're all alive thanks to me. And then the character just continues to grow, and his and Luke's dynamic throughout the rest of the season, and I'm assuming the rest of the series, is so fantastic.
It feels very much like this is the unfortunate truth of it, is that if any of us were in situations like this where we had the gang that went off and fought aliens, we would like to think that we're smart like Luke, or that we're cool under pressure like Sarah Jane, or that we're this. We're not. We're Clyde.
Yeah.
That is our gateway character.
Absolutely.
We're going to be the guy that's making the wise comments in the background that don't really apply to anything, but occasionally come up with that nugget of, hey, I helped you out there. Remember that.
The nice thing about Clyde is a nice vehicle, and this is why because he's introduced here, it works so well. He is the vehicle to which Luke learns his street smarts from.
Yeah.
He's the one that he has to have that but he has to eventually have that common friend that can. Sarah Jane's not going to be able to show him how to be a kid.
No.
Marie's not going to be able to show him how to be a kid because she's a girl.
Yeah.
He has to have somebody that's a peer that is equal level with him that can say, this is when you're doing it wrong, this is when you're doing it right, this is how to be cool. And he has to have that one kid that accepts Luke as not this geek outcast kid. And that's where this character works, and it that's what makes Clyde the perfect companion, and why I think Clyde and Luke end up having such a great chemistry together, because it's the master teaching the student, but the student outsmarts the master. That's the nice balance of it. It strikes a fantastic balance there.
Which I think Luke has some great. Throughout the entire series, has some great exploration to him. I love his character. He's such a good character.
Yeah.
And now that we've started the season proper, the main characters are all enjoyable, and you like them all.
Yeah.
The nice thing with this too, and we got definitely a sampling of it in Invasion of the Bane, and they carried right through into this one with the constant name dropping to really cement whose universe that the sandbox is set in.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Slovene have nothing but references to other alien. They talk about space police, which we're kind of led to believe are Jadoon.
Yeah. They say Jadoon at one point.
At one point later.
I don't remember whether it was this one or whether it was Lost Boy. They name dropped the Jadoon. Yeah.
Well, and you assume and
it was this one. It was this one because it was the two older guys that were talking about it. Yeah.
They make reference to the fact that they are doing this because of losing their family in Doctor Who.
Did you?
That's such a strong tie-in.
It is. Well, not to mention Sarah is always saying, "Well, I know this man named the Doctor. I traveled with this man. His name is the Doctor." That to me cemented the sandbox right there.
Did you happen to notice the background wall of Sarah Jane's attic?
This should have been mentioned in the last episode or last
all
story.
Over. I mean, first of all, there's photos. Harry Sullivan loved Harry Sullivan's photo in the attic.
Yeah. There's so much
picture of the brig on the wall. Fantastic.
Well, we keep seeing unit logos everywhere.
Everywhere. And I'm looking at this, and every square inch of her attic has something plastered on it.
And they're all
including the Jaggeroth spaceship. And it's the blueprint from the Doctor Who technical manual.
Yeah, it is.
I jumped off the couch and went, oh! That's my book!
It absolutely is.
Isn't there a Dalek out?
There's a Dalek outline and a Cyberman and the Jaggeroth, and I think there's a blueprint of the sonic screwdriver. Which,
that might be.
I mean, they photocopied this book and put it all over her house, and I loved that. It was like, that is so cool. But we get the name drops throughout the show, and Unit, and this one obviously at the end, the big one is she's on the phone with Unit, and she mentions, I know somebody who can clean this up.
Yes,
she's on the phone with Unit, and she says, "Love to the brig."
Yes,
and it's like, I mean, just one after another after another, really driving this point home.
Which knowing who pops up later, I can't wait to get to that.
Yeah, I can't wait to get that either. That'll be fantastic.
Well, shall we move on to
Let's move to Eye of the Gorgon.
A nun's ghost is reported at old folks' home Lavender Lawns, and Sarah Jane and the kids investigates. That's all I'm going to go with.
All right, very good.
I'm shorting these up.
I was excited about this because I went, Eye of the Gorgon? Really? That's like from Greek mythology. Medusa was a Gorgon. And I went, wow, that's kind of weird. I wonder if they're going to actually... And then they played right into that whole thing. I was like, well, this is exactly what we're doing. Yeah, this is exactly where we're going with this.
It's so cool.
Me being a Greek mythology buff, I was like, wow, hey, this is totally Gorgon myth.
It's always so cool for any sci-fi show, regardless of if it's a kid's show or not, to explain Greek mythology in a way.
A little bit of an explanation.
Yeah. They weren't actually Gorgon. Well, they were Gorgons, but Gorgons are aliens.
Yeah, they're aliens. That's why the myth.
So cool.
That's what the myth is built around, is the fact that there were actually Gorgons, and this did really happen. Now, the ancient Greeks put it in the aspect of these were gods. That's why you couldn't explain. Exactly, you can't explain that. So, but it works down.
And as we've commented before, this episode totally falls into the what we love, taking something mystical and mythic and making it a scientific base,
explaining it.
Reality. Now, obviously, we're talking scientifically based reality as aliens, but
science fiction
in the concept of what we're watching here, this is fantastic. This one really felt more Scooby-Doo to me than I think almost any of, because we're going to go up to the house in the hills, and we're going to drive out of town, and we've got this big.
Well, we're starting with we start with the idea that there's this ghost nun. Yeah, exactly.
The ghost nun in the house, and all that. And I've decided as I watch these that I don't mind. Mm-hmm. I really don't mind the Scooby-Doo connection. There are certain shows that when they try to do it, it's like.
Well, I think the fact that this is a kid's show lends to that Scooby-Doo connection.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But it is in a way almost a very. I keep waiting for the Davy Jones musical number to pop up at times when they're running from something and doing the back and forth with the doorways or something. Right. I loved the old lady. I don't remember her name now. The character's name.
Well, I couldn't remember. Is that Juliet? Is that Juliet Cohen? Is that who that was? I'm just looking at names here. Yeah, she was played by Chrissy. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. You're right. It would have been Chris. No, that's not right. Chrissy is the mom. It was B. Yeah, B. Nelson. B. Nelson Stanley. It was B. They kept calling her B.
I would love to see more about B.
Yeah.
And her story, I think, truly made this episode, these 2 episodes. And the fact that she knows what Sontarans are.
Yeah.
Another name drop. But
Another name drop,
and the fact that they totally played it off when she, first of all, she drops it, Sontarans. And everybody, what do we got? And then she goes on to, oh, yes, they look like baked potatoes. And I died laughing.
Absolutely.
Because you can't necessarily say that on Doctor Who.
Right.
But you can totally say it here because it's not quite there.
Well, and by somebody that's senile and that is experiencing Alzheimer's, and it totally works. It totally works from that aspect. And I absolutely
I would love to see the Doctor almost cross paths with her and her husband sometime in the past.
That would be neat.
Wouldn't that be cool?
You want to talk an older companion who would be phenomenal?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Now,
absolutely.
we'd have to figure a way around the Alzheimer's bit. But
Right.
Yeah.
But when she was dealing with the alien aspects, that's when she was sharp as a tack. Mm-hmm. It was almost like when she got older, she couldn't deal with actual reality and pulled back to what other people would call fantasy.
Which what I liked about this is that's typical of Alzheimer's patients, is they have certain things that if they can focus in and key on a certain subject or object, they're sharp as a whip, because the mind works in such a way that when you have Alzheimer's, it's really just a deterioration of the mind, not just the memories, but just the mind in general and how the brain processes and how it functions. But if you can get an Alzheimer's patient to focus and key in on something, an object,
especially something in their past,
or a memory, or a time, or something, they become very channeled and very funneled. I think autism does this as well, but they can become very channeled and very coherent on that one thing. And you can get them to talk for long periods of time and remember. And a lot when they do Alzheimer's therapy, they do that. So this story actually stays in line with that, and I like that concept that once she's talking about, especially having to do with Gorgons, that she zeroes in and she remembers her travels with her husband. She remembers the things that her husband tells her, and the things that she, the relationship she had with him, and the things that happened to them, and this key being, the vital piece of the story here as well, that she has this key. The nuns want it because they want to be able to bring the other Gorgons over and to be able to send the aging Gorgon into a host body so that it can continue to live.
I really like the fact that it wasn't just the setup. It continued throughout the entire story.
Absolutely. And Maria has to go back to B in order to unlock the how to save her, because of the key, how to save her dad.
And what a cliffhanger moment that was when because it's like, how are we going to get out of this? How are we going to? And then all of a sudden Alan walks in and it's like, no.
Bad time.
And my first thought was, why not the mom? Why couldn't we have?
Because you like Alan. You don't want Alan to turn to stone.
I mean, if you're trying to make me feel that there's a moment of peril involved and that we are at this, wow, somebody could get hurt, there's some real danger involved with a Gorgon, you could have zapped her. I'd have been okay with that. But now, now there's some real threat going on. We have to reverse this. We have to find a way around it. And I wasn't sure there was going to be. I kind of suspected that maybe they were going to write Alan out at that point.
Yeah, I thought, wow, that's really bold for a kid's show.
Yeah, no lie.
Killing the dad? And then they did.
What is this, a Disney movie? Let's kill the parent off. Okay.
But he comes out of it.
But he does. He makes it.
And there's more.
Spoilers for those of you that haven't seen it.
I think that there's also some more great Luke moments in this. Luke and Clyde moments in this
when
story.
The nuns come to the door, and Luke's all like, yeah, what do you want? And Clyde's like, don't talk to them. Why not? Because you just don't do that's creepy.
Creepy nun looking for what you have. You don't talk to them.
That was a really, really fun moment with those characters.
Well, it's a whole comedy of errors in the sense when he ends up getting in the car with them.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute.
He doesn't willingly do that.
But he doesn't.
And what's up?
He interacts with them enough to be pulled
allow them.
to allow them.
The mind control that the Gorgon is influencing over this coven of nuns must be substantial, because this nun picked Luke up and manhandled him into this car. I mean, it was almost like tuck him under one arm and in we go. I mean, it was like Luke weighs what? $190, if that, and she just and throws him in the car. I mean, it was hysterical.
Maybe that's more like $125.
$125, if that. And then when they're at the convent, which the convent was cool.
Yeah, that was
a great location to shoot at. And I thought the same with Lavender Lawns.
Yes.
Both of those had really good.
A lot of this
location shooting
has great locations.
It does. It really does.
But when they get to the convent and they're there and they're kind of locked in the room and Clyde's being Clyde, he's kind of going off and freaking out a little bit, and Luke's reading in the library and he's like, "How can you be so calm? How can you do this?" And he goes, "Did you know this? Did you know this?" He goes, "Why would I care?" "Well, because that means there's a hidden passageway somewhere. We just have to find it." Click. "Oh, there it is." And then he goes. I mean, just their whole setup in that is just
almost classic Who elements to it in
really
this story.
is.
Well, Luke becomes the Doctor character in so many elements that he's just so smart that he's already 2 steps ahead of what's going on, and I like that about Luke. Socially awkward, but boy, he's just brilliant when it comes to figuring things out.
I like the socially awkward aspect of him.
Yeah.
How did you guys feel about? I was really kind of on the fence, and in a way, I still am. I couldn't decide if I liked the idea that the nuns were acting out of this cult had grown up that we were serving and worshiping the Gorgon, which is what it felt like. And it wasn't until
I don't know if I got worshiping out of it.
It's not until they're unlocked from
it wasn't until the
control.
end when the control was broken and they're like, "What happened?"
Yeah.
And then it was like, "Oh, they were just under mind control." And maybe again, kid show versus the Doctor Who element. If this had been a Doctor Who episode, I think they would have been the Cult of Skaro. We would have been totally.
And it wouldn't have been a mind control thing.
It's not a mind control thing.
Yeah.
These are So I there's a part of me that kind of almost feels a little cheated.
It's almost like they needed to backtrack and say, "Wait, no, nuns aren't bad."
But at the same time, I was very uncomfortable thinking that they were not. Mind control didn't enter into it for me until they said it.
Yeah.
And I was really not comfortable with the nuns acting in this manner. And I don't know why, because I have no particular association with nuns, but other than they're nuns.
Nuns.
But something about that really set me on edge. But then when they revealed that it was mind control, I almost felt cheated.
I was the same way, but it didn't set me on edge. I was intrigued by that whole idea. I was like, yeah, there you go. There's idealistic religion right there, cultic ideas, and so. In fact, when they said, they were like, what happened? It was mind control. I thought, okay, well, obviously then.
Which up until that point, what an idea and thought to bring into a kids show.
Yeah. But they don't go there.
They don't go there.
So at this point in the series.
Because it's a kids show.
At this point in the series, who is evil? Teachers? Nuns? Maybe we should keep going and explore this thought. And a soda manufacturer.
Laser tag.
Laser tag. Shall we jump into Warriors
Yeah, let's get into Warriors of Kulak.
Teenagers are disappearing, and all of them have visited Combat 300.
3,000.
Okay, IMDb is wrong. A new laser
totally
game
Combat
center.
3000.
When Luke and Clyde go along to the center, they are doing well at their game when they too disappear. Sarah Jane and Maria investigate, but are confronted by Kulak, the center's manager.
Sean?
Sorry, I was reading something else and got distracted.
This is my least favorite of the series.
I enjoyed this. I thought this was fun.
This one,
I thought the Sylvain was lower than
this.
Yeah,
I love it. The Sylvain was better. The end of this one.
I know why you don't like this.
No,
one.
he's not anthropomorphic bug. That was a very creative alien. I thought it was fine.
Out of any of them,
no, he was bug-like, but again, bug-like in the sense that Starship Troopers bugs are bug-like, but he doesn't look like any one particular bug.
He looks like an ant. His head is totally
not at all.
An ant.
Not at all.
I didn't get that either. I loved the design of the monster.
That's why you like all of these anthropomorphic, because you zero in and go, "This is what this is. This is what this is."
I can relate that to my world.
Totally, they were very bug-like, but it had not at all. I liked the look of the aliens. Those were fantastic. They were very well done, except for the eyes didn't really move in conjunction with each other, but I don't think they're supposed to. I think they're supposed to be focusing on several things at once, as a bug probably does. No, what this one does is it falls down on the sense that they tried to make the assistant manager guy, I can't remember his name, they tried to make him too comical, too smarmy, slimy. It was almost a little too over the top. This one doesn't go anywhere either because once the kids are kidnapped, we spend the entire second episode of this thing trying to get off this ship, failing to try to get off this ship over and over again, and that got redundant.
And that's different from classic Who.
That got redundant and old. But I didn't hate this episode. I'm just saying this was why this was my least favorite. Now the payoff in the end, I absolutely love. I love the concept and where we get to, but getting there was way too long. The kids going in, and I like the idea of recruiting them through a video game to be warriors. However, it's been done before. Last Starfighter. But I like that. But it's just well, Clyde's going to figure. Okay, how do we get Luke to understand how to be a kid? Well, let's put him in. Let's go to laser tag. I mean, that felt forced. It felt like a way to get him into the laser tag thing. It was, then when they get the kids up there,
I thought they did a good job.
It was too spread out and slow. It was very classic Doctor Who. I'll give it that.
I thought they did a good job of tying the kid that Sarah Jane was investigating into.
That was fine.
Well,
it made sense why Sarah's onto this in the first place, and then the realization that Luke and Clyde are there when they go to investigate. That was the other thing is, I understand that Sarah's an investigative journalist, but this one she just callously breaks into the office to find what she's looking for. And I don't have a problem with that because she does that in classic Who even.
Yeah.
She's like sneaking. But it just felt really criminally breaking and entering in this point. And that rubbed me the wrong way. There were just little elements of this that I didn't think were good and didn't go anywhere. It was like they stretched this out over two. This could have easily been a half-hour episode. They stretched it over 2.5 hours, which I think is a failing with watching classic Who now. Back when I was a kid, that was awesome. But so that's why this ends up being my least favorite. Again, I enjoyed it. It was fine. I watched it with kid eyes, and the payoff at the end is fantastic.
For me,
didn't expect the what's her name to be the computer.
Yeah, I didn't either. For me, the first episode is what falls down more than the second episode. I love the fact that all of our main characters get that "oh wow, I'm in space" moment.
That was okay. That was a good moment.
And
that only happens once though, and it only happens for a short amount of time. That's
which I think is appropriate.
But the payoffs aren't big enough to
I disagree. I think everything that happens, maybe the first episode in particular, I agree with Keith, has got some problems. For me, it was Sarah Jane constructing a strange device that she carted up to this hill.
How much looked like the console also?
To convert...
I thought it had a very...
That one I would disagree.
It
looked like a Nickelodeon... Not Nickelodeon, a
euphonium.
Yeah, exactly.
There was definitely a euphonium there.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that she constructed this and carted it up the hill and that it can register teleportation energy and turn it into Skittles. Nothing made sense.
Of some sort,
nothing made any sense about that at all.
Yeah,
and
I
that
agree.
brought up a lot of questions because now all of a sudden, if we're going to entrust Sarah Jane with the ability to create this device, did she build Mr. Smith? I mean, it just all of a sudden opened up this whole Pandora's box. I'm not sure
that
where.
Might have been where they were going with that to add to some intrigue and lend to the fact that maybe she was the one that did, but it doesn't work. It
doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. And I think they're pods that are used to terraform planets. Oh, but they also can occasionally be a sideshow. What?
Mm-hmm. Why is that both of them?
Shouldn't you have just been able to have Mr. Smith scan for teleportation and go, yeah, it's there?
Well, they didn't know
residual energy
it was
or something.
Teleportation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I don't know.
Suspected it though. That's why she built this to go look for the terraform.
Nothing about that makes sense. The second part of this, though, the second episode, when we get into space and the kids being bright, rambunctious youngsters who excelled at laser tag.
And then Luke with a cell phone breaking through locks.
I liked Luke's part of this, but I just felt like the kids were just there for nothing.
No,
they were there for, wow, we're in space.
No,
I can't believe
I like
this.
the fact that they then almost turn the tables, and it's like, well, what are we going to do? What do we think we're going to do? We're going to get out of here because that's we're the best. We're the best of the best, according to these guys.
Yeah.
So let's do that. And so the first
And
thing
then
they
you
do
just
is
keep
escape.
stumbling.
And then
You keep stumbling into the bad guys. though, every
you
time.
move from one set piece to another, and that's true, and that is very classic.
And
too,
it was
but
it was too long.
It fit with what they were trying to do, and it was a way to draw it out so that Sarah Jane could eventually get there.
There you
Yes,
go.
I will give you that.
That's all the elements that I had a problem with.
But I liked that. I liked
we're going to
the
have
fact
two
that the kids
storylines
got their
going on.
thing.
I want both storylines to be progressing. Not one storyline crawling through the ventilation ducts so that we can get the two back together, which is what we just talked about.
But what
falls
makes this
down
one
in
different?
Terminus.
What made this one different was the fact that they had caused enough trouble, even though they had been captured and recaptured or kept running into bad guys. They kept getting out of it, and it wasn't back into the cell, which happens so much in regular.
No,
it wasn't
but
completely a reset of everything you just did was worthless.
But it was get away and escape, get away and escape, get away and escape. I mean, it was,
And it was to the point where the general had to come back up and go, all right, enough's enough.
Yeah.
I congratulate you. You've pulled my attention away from it. Because they needed to get him up there for the big climatic ending. So I didn't have a problem with that. That was...
It didn't need a lot.
I liked the fact that the kids went, and turned
back.
on.
Yeah.
I do like the kids' resilience of, we're not going to do this. We're not going to go off and fight your wall. That was fine. That was good. That was a good element. And the whole fact that this guy, I mean, really, he was doing what he was bred to do, what he's used to, and that was to bring soldiers to the front line. That was his job. That he was a general, but he still had that conflict of interest because he knew that his planet was always doing this to strive for peace, and that was going against what the computer was telling him. And I like the fact that he kept. You could tell he was just resigned to. Okay, I want this all to be over with. I want to be able to spend my retirement in, not having to do this.
It's not
anymore.
the second
But
episode that you see.
No,
that.
exactly. But that's what I like about the second episode is you start to see that on him, and you start to see the fact that he still has that generalistic, militaristic sense of him that this is my duty, but he has another want, and that was well done and well portrayed as well.
And I think the ideas behind the story, wow, for a kids show, the fact that they're at this war, they're trying to come to recruit soldiers, but the war is actually still going on,
or you think the war's going on.
The war's going on, but it's actually over.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what an idea to introduce into a kids show!
It's happened before too, though. But
I think that endures me to this episode more is that it doesn't treat it with kid gloves.
it does. You're absolutely right.
This to me, General Kudlak is one of the best characters. I'll go so far as to say in the history of Doctor Who related. I love the design of the monster. I love the fact that you spend the first episode thinking he's one thing. Then you learn from Mr. Smith that that's General Kudlak. Oh boy, we're in trouble now. Right. And then we get this interpersonal relationship from him and the reflections of the warrior who's been at war too long, who doesn't want to do this. And you get that sense of, wow, he is such a well-written, well-rounded character. Mm-hmm. And then to top it all off with the shame of what he has been tricked into at the end of this episode.
And the fact that
was fantastic.
And the honor that he exhibits with, I'm going to make this right. I mean, I was blown away for a kid show that they would put all of this into the bug-eyed monster.
No, I agree
was
with that.
phenomenal.
I agree with that.
Absolutely phenomenal. And I think that's why I liked this episode so much, because of his characterization, his portrayal was not just
once we get to
scary.
We get to the element of this, I enjoy the episode. I enjoy it for what it is. But to me, it was just a long time getting there, and that I didn't like about it.
A couple of fun little continuity things that I'm happy to picking up here. Lance has posters from the DVDs featured in the Doctor Who episode Blink in his room.
That's cool.
Which I thought was I didn't know that until I was reading this. When Mr. Smith is searching for missing children, there's a poster in the background of Sarah Jane's attic depicting the design of John Lumick's Cybermen. So there's another one there. Am I not close enough? And then one of the aliens briefly depicted by Mr. Smith is the Beast from the Doctor Who episodes The Impossible Planet and Satan Pit. Mm-hmm. And this was one that bothered me. I don't know if you guys knew that or noticed this. Where does Sarah Jane live?
10 Banner Street? Or not 10, 13 Banner Street? Or
Yeah.
1300 Banner. No, it's 13 Banner Street.
13 Bannerman Road.
Bannerman. That's what it is.
Okay.
Bannerman. Like Delta and the Bannerman. Because I zeroed in on that. I can't believe I don't remember that because I went, hey, that's like Delta and the Bannerman.
They've said that. 13 Bannerman Road.
Yeah,
It's in the dialogue. When the nuns show up to her house in Eye of the Gorgon, the number plate shows 21 Bannerman Road. And it jarred me because I was like, did she move? I thought it was 13 because that was another Scooby-Doo trigger for me. It was 13, it's almost Mockingbird Lane kind of feel to it. 13 Bannerman Road. Sarah Jane's business cards in this episode also say 21.
Huh.
And so now I'm kind of curious, is this an investigative journalist thing to throw people off the track that you stole the nameplate off thing? Is it just a gaffe?
I don't know.
It's probably just a continuity error.
So
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
I don't know about that, but it threw me when they kept saying 13 and then the nun showed up at 21. I was like, really?
Well, let's move on to whatever happened to Sarah Jane.
Best episode
Oh, so good.
of the season.
This was my favorite. Yeah.
Visiting Sarah Jane, Maria is shocked to find her place taken by Andrea, a woman of the same age group who has apparently lived in the house for years. A newspaper from over 40 years earlier reveals that Sarah Jane, then 13, fell to her death from a pier where she and Andrea were playing. When Maria confronts her with this, Andrea goes into her attic and conjures up a cloaked figure, the trickster, who summons a dwarf called the Grask to transport Maria back to 1964, where she meets schoolgirls Andrea and Sarah Jane.
Da-na-na! Because it deserves it.
Yeah, this was a fantastic
the
episode.
best. Yeah, I agree. The best of series 1.
I think so too. I think I would rate this one as my favorite.
Although I do like Lost Boy a lot.
The Wibbly. We'll get there. The Wibbly. The Lost Boy is only slightly better than.
I like
We'll
the
get there.
Warriors.
We'll get there.
Finish your thought.
This one, I love the timey-wimey aspect of it. I love the idea of the trickster, except for I hate the name.
Yeah.
and
I'm sorry, there's a character in Supernatural.
And
He sounds a bit like a Flash villain, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wait.
and the trickster doesn't fit the look of the character of the monster
it doesn't
either.
fit the method of what Sarah Jane is either. But what I do like, and then the Grask. I think it was the other thing that the Grask felt reused, although it was in the Grask's MO to work the way that it does.
Isn't this the first introduction of the Grask?
I thought because the Attack of the Grask is the ITV or not ITV, BBC ITV interactive game that you could play, and that came out during Christmas Invasion or right after Christmas Invasion. So, the Grask was created before that. So, but yeah, I didn't like the Grask. But overall, the timey-wimey about this thing, the establishment that the relationship that they build upon between Maria and Alan is fantastic in this one, because even though Maria, from all intents and purposes of everyone else's perspective, is spouting things of a mad woman, Alan continues to try to give her the benefit of the doubt for the longest time. Because Alan could have just simply said, "Hey, this is wrong. You're lying. You're making things up. You're going to a psychiatrist because you keep."
Oh, honey, you're imagining things.
He kept giving her the benefit of the doubt. And I liked that, and it cemented the type of relationship her and her father have. And so I like that. And then they took it one step forward by when he has the device that protects him, and he suddenly is in her shoes, that he's the only one that remembers her. That broadened that whole aspect for me. And
that was such a good element.
It almost qualified him almost trusting that maybe she wasn't crazy, and then when he finds out that she wasn't, it wasn't one of those, aha, dummy, you should have believed her in the first place. It was I'm glad that you're now getting to experience this, because it's qualifying your suspicions that maybe there was something wrong there.
And yet
I liked that.
More reasons to hate the mom.
Yes, absolutely.
Because at this point, Sarah Jane's over her frostiness, and this is the story that they reference her frostiness. I'm sorry, it's the next one.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right.
I'm thinking of the next one. I'm sorry. I was reading the synopsis. I jumped ahead. I think Andrea was a fantastic character.
She was. She's annoying at first. She's so annoying at first. But then when you understand who she is and where she comes from, it's...
Did anybody else...
It totally works.
Did the actress remind you of Molly Steinberger?
Who's Molly Steinberger?
I might not have the name right. Back to the Future 3?
No, that's
Sternberger.
Mary Sternberger.
Mary.
Mary
Yeah,
Sternberger.
Mary. The actress, I almost thought that was... I think that looked very similar.
Honestly, she threw me because when she first opens the door and Maria goes, "Whoa, you're not Sarah Jane," but there was, I don't know, something about it that she looked very Sarah Jane. Like it took me a minute to go, "That's not Elizabeth Sladen." I mean, it really. It's not like Sarah Jane with blonde hair. It just, there was something very, very, very familiar about her. And I don't know, maybe that was done intentionally to kind of throw everybody
Well,
off.
I wonder if it was. When she opened the door, I thought it was totally obvious it wasn't.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I thought, who is this?
Yeah.
Mel had the same problem.
Well, but
like,
I knew it was
Sarah
coming
Jane,
too,
is
because
it?
whatever happened to Sarah Jane, I thought, well, she's going to open the door and she's not going to be Sarah Jane
Wasn't
anymore.
that before the title card? Or was that after?
Well, I've seen all these titles before I even watched the shows. That's what I'm saying. I saw this one coming because I knew the title of this one before it even happened. So,
see, I watched them all on DVD and didn't know the title.
I know the titles of everything up to season 5 because I've looked on Wiki before I even started watching Sarah Jane Adventures. So,
anyway,
no, you wouldn't have known that. You're right, because that would have been before the title cards. Don't get me wrong.
She, there was something very familiar
I knew
about
ahead of
her.
time.
And then the added twist or snowball of Yates being the last name. I kept waiting for the shoe to drop on what connection this had
Captain Yates.
to Captain Yates. And there wasn't one. It just happens. And I don't know how common the last name Yates is. Maybe it's like Smith. Maybe there's a lot of them. But it just...
Or Jones.
Or Jones.
Maybe it was an actual
Or Antilles.
reference.
Or
Antilles.
thanks for going there.
You're welcome.
I didn't mind the fact that the Grask was in it. I didn't mind the fact that she referenced him as the trickster. This was another one that everything in this episode worked. I liked the setup. I liked the all of a sudden that whoosh, she was gone. Conveniently, we've given Maria the puzzle box, and that this is going to help eventually her figure this out. But
I have to ask you about this because she gives Maria the puzzle box, and they set up that whole establishment of I was supposed to give it to somebody that I trust, and you're the one I trust. And I think that says a lot for their relationship. And going back to what I talked about the first of this review. However, the weird thing was, remember the soothsayer? I mean, obviously there's adventures that are happening between episodes, and things are going on after screen, which I like. I'm fine with that. But she says, the soothsayer that we gave the ride back to whatever, I don't remember exactly what the reference was, but when she says the soothsayer, and then I'm like, you're trying to casually interject possible metaphoric magical beings, because I always have a problem with the whole soothsayer prophecies, because you get into a religion realm there that I don't think
it was that crazy woman with the antlers growing out of her head.
Yeah, well, you know. It's just when you get into those type of things. So I did kind of cringe a little bit, and I wondered what you thought about that, because you and I are kind of on the same page when it comes to that. But there's no chance to explain that away, because when you make it a throwaway line, you're interjecting that mystery.
Soothsayer, in and of itself, as a term, because I don't know, because it was such a throwaway line, I probably didn't. I didn't devote a lot of attention to it, and I didn't cringe. Now that you've brought it up, it's brought to mind a lot of potential questions for this. There are many things, though, in Doctor Who, and particularly in Sarah Jane's travels with the Doctor, that we just don't get sufficient enough. You know, why is the Sisterhood on Karn the way they are?
Yeah.
If they're offshoots of the Gaff? I mean, there's just so much of it that's out there that appears mystical that I think for Sarah Jane to refer to it as the blah 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 soothsayer, it doesn't necessarily ring that big of an alarm bell for me, because it could have been he's a time traveler. And
well, that's true.
You know.
and somebody really kind of put it in perspective for me when I was reading when we were talking about the end of time, and we have the one prophet that they bring in that we liken to the Sisters of Karn. Somebody said Do you suppose, though, that people like Nostradamus or anybody else that has a gift of sight into the future?
I'm sorry, I don't want to give any credence to Nostradamus.
Well, listen, no, I agree. But if we're putting Nostradamus in our science fiction Doctor Who world,
okay,
which he is,
right? If somebody can,
his wife knitted the scarf.
That's right. If somebody can,
straight from the Doctor's mitts, that's where it came from.
If the Doctor can travel through the vortex, does it seem strange that people could tap into the vortex and see through the vortex in a sense as well? So I suppose
some sort of telepathic
third eye.
I hate to go there, but
I'm fine with. I am totally fine with somebody having, the sight, somebody being touched.
A way to tap into the vortex and be able to see things in the future.
As long as if you're going to do a whole episode on they're touched, they have the sight, fine. As long as you explain it away by the end of the episode, I'm completely okay with that. So maybe that's why I don't have a big.
We're picking apart a throwaway line, but anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring it to attention. When I heard that, I went. I always hate prophecy and soothsayers because they don't fit for me. But go ahead.
Prophecy is a staple of science
really
fiction.
Is.
Science fiction and fantasy. It becomes it's Star Wars. You speak of the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force.
That's not science fiction. There's a huge difference between science fiction and science fantasy. I'm not going to go in the whole.
Well, we're not going to go there, but I think there are parts of it that totally work.
It didn't hit me until rewatching this episode. We get a Sarah Light.
Yeah.
We do.
In fact, I bet Elizabeth Sladen went on holiday
in Spain.
I wonder if
she went to
later
Barcelona.
seasons have Sarah Light stories.
I know there's a season that's very Luke-like.
Well,
because he was actually going to school at the time.
Yeah, he went off to college,
right.
And they wrote that in.
University.
I'm sorry.
When we finally reveal that Sarah Jane is, we get the holy crap moment of that they killed her in this episode, and that she died on this pier, and that the other woman made it. There have been moments throughout the series that I felt a little verklempt. That just Elizabeth Sladen would bound onto the stage with such energy and excitement, and she was excited to be there. And I'd get a little choked up knowing that was that. When they came
I got a little choked up when especially in the first story that she talked about the Doctor.
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to the name dropping too.
Yeah.
When they say, "Oh, Sarah Jane Smith died," it was hard. It was really there was a physical response from me on that. When they show her in limbo, as horrible as that was, it was such a relief because
oh wait, she's
there. She still exists in some corporeal form that you're okay with. But when the trickster threatened the Doctor, the hackles on my neck went up.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
I don't know what it was about that. It was just and I got the fangs and claws.
Don't you go near him. But Sarah completely voices exactly what you're thinking.
Yes, absolutely.
That is wonderful.
And this story until episode 2 brings up all sorts of ideas of the fact of why isn't the Earth completely demolished if she never traveled with the Doctor? And it's not until later when the trickster references the fact that the trickster only mentions the Selene and the Bane and that he warded them away. But you can assume that any of the adventures that she was with the Doctor on Earth...
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
...was the same thing.
Anytime that he and she... Well, although, since the Doctor is still in that element, you can always assume that because Sarah was replaced essentially in her own home, in her own situation, she was replaced by Andrea, that perhaps the Doctor still had his adventures. It just happened to be with another. I mean, she wasn't the keystone in those adventures, although I'd like to think she was. another companion or companions were
companion
along
could have been
for
there.
that time.
Right.
And the same things happened essentially. They just because
but they still would have happened differently because she wasn't there.
Well, they would have happened differently, but like maybe I guess what I'm saying
different
is
but parallel.
Yeah,
it wouldn't
different but
necessarily,
parallel, right,
it wouldn't
because
necessarily have been a completely alternate outcome.
Right, exactly. It's not the butterfly effect in that sense because the outcome is still going to happen. It just may have changed the course of how it happened. The outcome still happens. For the same reason that Andrea ends up in the same house across the street from Maria that Sarah Jane occupied at that point. And they were so closely connected up until Sarah Jane's death, air quotes here, death, that she ends up in the same house. So I mean it's destined that she's to meet Maria one way or the other, or somebody from that house is destined to meet Maria.
Which regardless, it still made me think, what if Sarah Jane hadn't traveled with the Doctor?
Apparently, nothing much.
Yeah, nothing much. We wouldn't have the wonderful admiration of Sarah Jane that we have now.
Apparently, she was not the same linchpin type companion that Donna Noble was.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That her interaction was. And interestingly enough, the Wikipedia page mentions that the Turn Left episode, that was the influence of the Trickster with the time bug. That was he did go after him with that. I'm not quite sure where they got the connection made.
Maybe they retconned it, or it was in Expanded Universe.
Yeah, could be. The thing this is the funny thing that really got me going. They're showing all these photos of, well, this is you moving in, and it's different, and then this is you moving in without Andrea or without Maria, and and I every time they would show a photo of move-in day, I kept thinking to myself, who's taking this photo?
It's not until Chrissy says.
And because I've written her off as a character in my head because I dislike her so much that it's not until she says, I took the photo. I'm like, oh yeah, you would have been there, wouldn't you? It just kind of brought everything crashing back down.
She was there, the first invasion of the Bay.
I loved the 1964.
Yeah.
Just the look and how everything was put together. It was like, wow.
That casting was fantastic for a young Sarah Jane.
Yeah, that was the other thing, is it really looked like both of them, really. I mean, they're just incredibly well cast, and everything was put together so well on that front.
And now Maria has become a time traveler?
Yes. She's been in space and through time.
I don't know. I can't say enough good about this.
No, I can't either.
It's such a
in fact, I've run out of good things to say.
Highlights of the story.
There's very few downers of this story at all.
Well, let's move on to The Lost Boy.
Yeah.
A tearful couple appear on television to appeal for the return of their lost son, Ashley. According to Mr. Smith's analysis of the boy's DNA, Ashley and Luke are the same person. And after Chrissy Jackson has called the police, a reluctant Luke is returned home.
Because I liked it.
I wasn't done.
Yeah, you were.
No,
That's good enough.
it works.
All right, so I don't want to lambast.
Let's let Keith go first,
so let's
then.
let Keith go.
I think Mr. Smith and the Zylock overshadow everything in this story. Rewatching it, some of Celine's stuff is like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. What you remember from the story is, what? Mr. Smith is evil? Mm-hmm. No! We've trusted him throughout this entire series. I mean, he turns. But I think the way they worked Mr. Smith, and then the going back of showing how she created Mr. Smith.
I like getting the
fantastic.
backstory on Mr. Smith for certain.
And the fact that the Slovene are being used by Mr. Smith, I think is fantastic. And the fact that, yeah, we bring back the Slovene, but they're just pawns.
Yeah, but they didn't need to be the Slovene. And then they introduced the fact that the kid escaped, which I saw them both explode into goo in the first episode.
I rewatched it.
I did.
When I rewatched it, I didn't see the kid.
Yeah, they did.
The adult did.
The kid was beamed out.
I'm sure he probably was.
Yeah.
But I distinctly remember them both exploding into goo.
You were
I'm going to touch on that because we could have used. This is the one that I didn't enjoy the Sylvain at all. I thought they were forced in there. It was surprising because they weren't the overweight people that you're used to the Sylvain being.
Yeah, which was a nice touch.
And they make the comment that the cast displacement has been fixed in the suits, and so but the suits are so much tighter now. I like the nod to that.
I think that's what caught me off guard by it too.
That's the thing is you're gonna set up this epic. Wow, Mr. Smith is actually evil, is really bad, and he's had a motive this whole time.
What the heck is going on? Luke, is somebody's kid,
right? Exactly. All of that. You didn't have to put the Sylvain in there, and the kid Sylvain when coming back, and all it was for him was exacting his revenge on Luke. I mean, come on.
That was the part that fell down for me. It could have been
any other alien that he was using in order to do this. Now, it is in more of the Sylvain's MO for what they were trying to do, but I didn't need that. I was intrigued by the fact that, well, maybe the Bane really didn't create him, that maybe he was just, used and changed by that. That was a great concept. The Mr. Smith stuff was fantastic. I was really buying into that. I was hating. That's the largest part of this. As much as I love K9, the end of this thing was just, we got to figure out how to wrap this up. Okay, bring K9 in and fix it all. He was the sonic screwdriver of the episode, not just of the situation they're in, of the whole damn episode.
I don't know about that. I think Alan was such a big integral part of that, of creating the virus.
Well, that was the other thing is I don't ever remember him. I mean, I'm sure they did talk about him being some sort of software engineer, but
in Invasion of the Bane, in
Revenge of the Sylvain.
Revenge of the Sylvain, yeah.
But because he's the one that put
didn't set it up.
He recognized the blueprints of the technology buildings for all these schools. But they didn't
set it up well enough, and suddenly he's got some super virus that there were too many easy fixes, and just resetting Mr. Smith, and now he's going to be okay the next season. I'm going to have a real hard problem going if he doesn't come back and become bad again. I'm going to have a real problem with this. I don't think he will, and that's why I have a problem. The super virus that cures Mr. Smith, Kanan coming in and saving the day at the very end because nobody else can. It was
out of all of these
forced. It was
episodes?
too. And I watched this with kid eyes. I tried. I sat there and I went, "This has to work for me. I can't make any."
Out of all of these episodes and all of these stories,
it had such fantastic build up, and then went.
This is the one that felt most true to me.
Oh no, not at all. No, not at all. Great concept, but no, just they totally botched the ending of this one entirely.
As somebody who had not seen it before,
I had neither. This was my.
This was your.
No, yeah, The Lost Boy and Whatever Happened to Sarah Jane are the two I hadn't seen of the series.
I thought you had seen all of them.
Well, I thought I had two. This was the two that I remembered getting up to and falling off. And now that I think about it, I've actually now seen two of the second series too. So I don't know why these got lost in the shuffle, but probably my iPod copies that I had didn't work back then either. I thought I had seen them all.
A fantastic concept. The news report story that this is all of a sudden, whoa, wait, Luke's not this.
Yeah, I love that aspect
was and then Mr. Smith going, oh yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
Okay, obviously, Mr. Smith never makes mistakes, so we've got to deal with this.
False sense of security.
Chrissy being the one to call the cops. Hate you.
Yeah, but the person that needed to do it, that was set up well,
because nobody else would.
Right.
So now we've got this very interesting.
Well, and then Sarah getting out of any sort of real trouble
first of all,
because
Sarah,
of her connection to units. That's awesome.
Sarah being picked up by the cops for being we presume detained at the very least, was a very wow. I mean, we're kind of going to revert back to that whole mad woman in the attic thing. And when the unit file with her photo that was like
from Invasion or
Time Warrior.
Time Warrior. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like
her first
and
introduction.
she even resigns to the fact that, okay, this is what actually is going on.
Yeah.
Luke isn't created by the Bane.
That was all fantastic.
I love the fact that the kids are the ones that come to the rescue, that Clive's not convinced, and he goes to talk to him, and he's like, oh, yeah, I got him a skateboard, and blah, blah, blah. And Clive's like, yeah, right. I mean,
even Clyde,
the kids are the ones that figure it out.
Clyde
he
is
likes
a little,
football.
What? Yeah, even Clyde's pretty much accepting it, but he's just not quite there. And then the football thing, and then it was the skateboard where he goes, when he's talking to Maria, he says, you saw him on a skateboard. There's no, I can buy all the other stuff. There's no way.
Was he cool? Oh, yeah, he was well liked. No. I love the fact that there's just enough wrong that he's, putting two and two together, and that their faith in this is not shaken, that they've got to figure this out and save him. The reveal that the Slovene are this family. I mean, we get that one shot of the couple sitting on the couch with weird television images flickering on their screen, so we know that something's not right.
Yeah.
Because I was believing up until that moment. Even with Clive being, I'm not sold on it, and even with all these people going, I don't believe this. It wasn't until we got the shot of them on the couch getting some weird reception thing that was like, aha, something is not right here.
You buy into it because they set it up so nicely that you're going, wow, man, this is where they're going to go with this. He really wasn't created by the Bane. He was...
The reveal that they were Slovene took me completely by surprise. Did not see that coming.
I didn't see that coming either. I agree.
Well, they weren't blown
the title.
Away. And I went from the highest, oh, wow, to the lowest, it's the Slovene.
No, yeah. So as soon as they went to the zipper head, or as soon as he started talking about revenge, you don't remember me.
See, initially I thought that was almost a redeeming factor of Celine, that they were doing something different.
But it really wasn't.
No,
I mean,
it wasn't different.
Ended
and that's
up
why
not
they
being,
used them, because
it ended up
that's
not
totally
being
in their
different.
character to be.
But for the first episode, you completely think that, oh wait, Celine actually have a good idea here.
And Mr. Smith's plan does lend some credit to the Celine when before you know it's Mr. Smith's plan.
Yeah, exactly. Oh wait, these guys aren't as idiotic and pointless as we thought.
I love the fact that we get the backstory on Mr. Smith. Mm-hmm. That was so. Thank you for answering this question, because
episodes have so much potential.
I would have been very, very annoyed. I'm still a little fuzzy on whether or not Mr. Smith imparted Sarah Jane with the knowledge and ability to build him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I got the impression that he did it himself.
Well,
is what I got.
It seems like she put him on. Like he had to get from one point to be strong enough to do it. Yeah. Because obviously she's cobbled together all these different computer systems that he's running on at one point. That's very clear to me that she's put all that together. And it is she, but based on her startle or her surprise when he reveals himself the first time as what he finally is. I thought the same thing.
Even the fact that
he's the one that did that.
Did she even cobble those together, or did he get enough of a kickstart from just after he initially interfaced with the laptop and she maybe put a few things together for him? Did they then start pulling a Superman 3 where wires shot out and grabbed something and started sucking it to him?
No, I don't buy that at all. Now, I think he was probably the one saying, do this, move this, and we need this component, and she's DIY. But the you really get the impression that when he is coming out of the wall and he's part of that fireplace unit, that you get the impression that was something that he constructed himself, because she has that startle on her face, like, wow, she didn't expect this.
She totally didn't see that. So I love the fact that we got that. And then, as my question to you guys from last week, could we have a companion to the Doctor who we went an entire season and then it was suddenly revealed that they had ulterior motives? I asked that specifically because I had just come off of watching this episode, and I was like, I just flabbergasted.
Yeah.
What?
I totally didn't expect that.
So now that we've gotten this, and
you can do it now.
It's not so much that
you can't do it now.
It's that for the reasons you guys just said, we can't trust Mr. Smith anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't care that they've wiped his programming.
I'm interested to see.
I don't care that they've done this. There's still going to be that element of
what I've seen of Mr. Smith again is in Journey's End, and He helps get the Earth back to orbit. I mean, I already know that much.
Yeah.
So he's clearly still working for Sarah. And
the Doctor entrusts Mr. Smith with the TARDIS base code,
exactly,
which is a huge thing if that were to ever to go wonky.
I'm sorry.
So,
I'm sorry. That's
Going back to the origin of Mr. Smith, how much of Hand of Fear did you guys take away from it?
none.
The crystalline entity. I thought there were a lot of parallels.
I didn't. Yeah. Now that you point that out, I mean, I don't know that there's a lot of parallels.
Maybe
that one
just
little
the
minor thing.
crystalline idea of the fact that
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but no.
second viewing, I thought that.
Yeah.
But first viewing, I hadn't seen Hand of Fear.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. No, that's a good. I'm glad you pointed that out because I hadn't thought of that before. Well, what did you guys think of the ending? That's what I want to get to. Obviously, you liked it. It was Canine.
Canine
Canine came to rescue. Yeah. What did you think of the ending?
I didn't realize what she was reaching for. She was reaching behind. There have been many moments in the series where Sarah Jane goes for something
safe.
Well, but
exactly
I didn't.
She
put two and
showed
two
us
together.
what was on the other side of that door last time.
It had been a long time. I'd forgotten. There are many moments in the series where she goes for something. When she goes for her bag and goes, "Well, can I put a little lipstick on?" And the guy says, "Yeah," and then zaps him. Or she's not a very good liar. She just isn't. They've all felt forced. They've all felt like she's fumbling for something to throw at the bad guy, and it's like, aren't you watching her? This is very obvious that she's fumbling for something to throw at you. I mean, just get over it. So when the hand goes back and she starts dialing the safe, I'm like, well, what is she going to pull out of there? I mean, I completely didn't see it coming. So K9 shows up. It's like, oh, K9! And K9 blasts Mr. Smith into submission, and they beat him. And it was like, that's it?
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm sorry, Keith. I got to side with Glenn on this one. I loved the episodes. I thought these were great from a setup standpoint. The concepts were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
There was so much potential. This really felt like it needed a third part.
I would agree there.
I would agree too.
They just tried to.
If they could have used anybody but the Sylvain and not had that underscoring story with the kid wanting the revenge on Luke. And if they hadn't just sloppily ended it as fast as they did and cleaned it up as fast as they did, I could have enjoyed this better because the concept of Mr. Smith going bad. And again, my problem with that is that the whole reboot thing is now he's going to be okay and everything's going to be fine. He's not going to be this evil entity anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose from that aspect that when your computer does something weird and you back it up to a previous save. That you restarted.
Well, it's not even. But they didn't back it up to a previous save.
You've reprogrammed it in that essence.
Sean, here's my point: is I can set it back to before it went bad. The impression they give you from this is a calculated thing from when he was unearthed.
Right.
There's no setting it back past anything.
He's still inherently evil.
He has
reformatted
a goal
it
to bring the other. What was the name of the species? You said it earlier. I totally.
Oh, I closed my laptop.
Oh, well. Anyway, his species. He's essentially going to bring back the. It starts with an R.
Xyloc.
It was a Z. His intent is to bring the Xyloc back, which, from a survival standpoint, you can almost sympathize with that. But he's just. I mean, he's very. Oh, what did you think of Clyde being zapped into the computer? What did you think of that?
A little
that
Tron.
Was a little weird to me as well.
It was a little Tron. It was cool from the standpoint
I like the interaction with him and Alan.
That was a neat way to communicate.
That was, and again, something genius that escaped from Clyde that we didn't expect.
How lost was that?
Oh yeah, it was very Michael on the computer. Yeah. So that was if it had been Luke in the computer, it would have been okay. How's he going to get out? How's he going to do this? How's he going to do this? Oh, he's going to communicate with the outside world. Cool. Clyde, you don't expect that from, and so that was another genius move.
That's a great character development for Clyde.
I liked that,
and so
looking at it from a kid's view,
the interior of the computer probably could have been a little better realized.
I went to the whole. There needs to be more of a metaphysical feel here instead of him standing in a room with a bunch of monitors that have the numbers. It just that was weird. The whole idea of him being it was way too Tron. It was just
At that point, why didn't Mr. Smith just kill him to keep him out of the way?
That was the other problem I had with it. And it's obviously because it's a kid's show and he's one of our endearing characters. That goes with Sarah Jane being in the limbo part of Sarah Jane. It was another thing that I had a little bit of issue, although I was relieved that she was still, existing somewhere.
Just because
but it was a little weird that if your character's dead, just because of that, you're in some sort of limbo land that just didn't...
Well, and it kind of lends to the idea that...
Why? Because it's an alternate timeline.
Well,
It kind of lends to the idea that Mr. Smith is so sadistic that he's going to wait until he's got Sarah Jane in his clutches and then destroy all of them at the same time so she can see the kids go one at a time before her. And that just goes right back to the I can't trust him now. I really have issues with the idea of completely... And I'm not a programmer. I'm the technological Neanderthal of the group, so I'll freely admit that I don't get this whole, we reprogrammed it. The Doctor has reprogrammed many a computer in his time, and they've all gone on to do great things. But this just felt different.
I guess I think of it as, okay, you reformat a hard drive. It's completely brand new.
But my hard drive isn't a sentient being either.
Well, and they did admit
Smith won't be sentient.
They did admit that he lost a lot of his memory capacity and database of alien lore and all that kind of stuff when this happened. That they didn't salvage all of it. But I don't know.
I'm interested to see where it goes.
This to me feels very much like if this was a DC comic book. Okay, this is where Batman starts hoarding pieces of kryptonite just in case, because I can't fully.
Sarah better hold on to the super virus.
Yeah, I mean,
which I'm sure she will keep it in her inventory of this. Sarah's a hoarder.
Well,
she really is. She's what?
A hoarder.
Oh, hoarder.
She's a hoarder.
Gotcha.
Hoarder.
I'd be immediately going back to Alan going, you need to start working on 2.0 because...
Upgrade this.
We want to back
he's going to adapt. Yeah. If there's one thing I've learned from science fiction, supercomputers or robots, they adapt. So we need to have something that can... Mark II.
Look at Superman 3.
I was thrilled to see K9, but I agree with you. I felt it was...
Well, there was that way back in the back of my head, the 9-year-old boy in me that used to absolutely love K9 and Classic series was doing a quick air punch because that was like, oh yeah, there's K9, come.
I totally squeed.
K9, sick him K9. I mean, there was that, and so I had that moment, but then it was just too. All right.
On my second viewing, I will agree that it was a little for me. First viewing, I was so ecstatic over K9.
It's K9. K9's back.
I don't care what he's doing. It's K9. The second viewing, it did kind of have the issues you mentioned.
Sean, what do we got coming up on the schedule?
Coming up on the schedule. Our Friday Night Who viewing for this week on the 9th will be another Cyberman story for Keith.
Yay!
We get Silver Nemesis, starring Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred.
I'll finally get the Silver Nemesis.
You will not be yaying.
Electric Boogaloo.
Don't be too excited.
Yeah, you will not be yaying this episode. I can guarantee you will not.
There's so much of, in a way, we'll get there, but there's so much of Silver Nemesis that could have been awesome, and it just isn't.
You will look at this Cyberman story and the way that Sean and I looked at Closing Time.
That's a very good analogy.
Yeah.
Our show next week is our Cybermen archive. We're going to do Attack of the Cybermen and Silver Nemesis, since we just watched those. And if you enjoyed our discussion on the Sarah Jane adventures, more are on the docket for the end of April. So you can start work on season 2 now if you like homework.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into everything else that's on the schedule. You can find that on the website.
I'm almost tempted to just go ahead and jump into season 2. And then go back and rewatch.
Well, I think I've gotten in such a... In fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and go back to the beginning of season 1 and have Caitlin watch, because after watching all of these, she would totally enjoy this series. So I think we're going to watch everything together now. So
that'll be
awesome.
I look forward to hearing her perspective.
Yeah,
maybe we could bring Caitlin on the show. We'll record her at an earlier time when she's not in bed
before bedtime. Yeah.
And we can get a true newbie's perspective.
If nothing else, a segment.
Yeah, there you go.
A short trip.
There you go.
We'll do that. Anyway, that's going to do it for us this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everyone.
Be seeing you.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.